How do you do? I seem to remember a song that was very popular some years ago called I'm a Dreamer, Aren't We All? It might well have been dedicated to the subject of this week's casebook history. There was a dreamer, if you like. Unfortunately, he couldn't distinguish between dreams and facts. He was a man who felt he deserved money, fame, and power, deserved them without the tiresome necessity of having to work and plan and save. As a child, he dreamed that as a man he would be rich and talked about. As a man, he dreamed that he was rich, and he certainly got himself talked about. For this, he was prepared to do anything, or anybody. A pretty loathsome character, you'd say. Well, see what you think. The place where we'll find him is a club. At least it's called a club. One of the hundreds, possibly thousands of its kind all over London, where you go down a few steps and up a few steps into a room with a bar. You pay £1 a year for membership, and they don't have any waiting list. And you don't have to be sponsored. In fact, all you need is a lot of money. There's always a radio, and it's nearly always playing.
Evening, Harry.
Evening, Major Armstrong, the usual.
Right, and keep your thumb out of the glass, you red-nosed robber.
Now.
Hello there.
Oh, hello, old boy.
Bit of luck, this. I was hoping to run into you.
You were you? Harry, make that 2 doubles.
Very good, Major.
Can't we go somewhere where I can buy you a drink? Oh, don't give it a thought. Besides, I'm meeting some people here later.
Your drink, sir.
Oh, thanks, Harry. Here you are. Sorry I haven't anything smaller.
No, that's all right. Plenty of change.
Oh,
You seem to be doing all right for yourself these days.
I always did, old boy. Well, here's how.
Cheers.
You look like a man with a conversation on your mind.
You catch on quick.
Then we better grab a table. This place will start filling up in a minute or two. Harry, a couple more large ones at the table in the corner.
Right along, Major.
Look, now that old goat Harry can't hear us, what do you call yourself these days?
As it happens, I'm using the church name at the moment. All open and above board. Roy Carter.
You funny, old-fashioned old thing.
I know. Quaint, isn't it? And you?
Jimmy Armstrong.
Jimmy Armstrong.
From South Africa.
Got it.
Good. Now, tell me, what's on your mind?
That was a charming meeting between 2 old school friends, wasn't it? Yes, they did meet in a school, of a sort. But as I'm sure you've guessed, not the kind of an alma mater you refer to with real pride. No. Roy and Jimmy, as he calls himself, were both inmates of Boston. Perhaps you've heard of it. At any rate, it's an institution for juvenile criminals. But of course, it doesn't always work. Now and again, you get a bad hat who won't reform. Sometimes you get 2. And you know what they say about birds of a feather.
Oh, when I heard you were prosperous and doing the town in a large way, I said to myself, Roy, my lad, if that's so, you can bet your boots your old friend, Jimmy.
Thank you.
You can bet your boots he isn't treading the straight and narrow or any nonsense like that. Shows how wrong one can be, doesn't it?
It all depends what you mean.
Well, I hardly expected to find you a bronzed warrior all covered in medals and glory.
You're disappointed?
From my own point of view, yes. You see, I'm suffering from a chronic shortage of cash.
Oh, horrible situation for anyone to be in these days. You have my sympathy.
Thank you. I don't suppose even a major's pay goes very far, with the competition being what it is.
A major's pay wouldn't last me a week. A couple of nights, more likely.
Ye gods. You mean you're working the old racket and you're in the army, too? How do you get the time?
The dear old army is not aware of the fact I'm honoring it by wearing its uniform.
You're playing it a bit steep, aren't you?
I always have, haven't I?
That's so. But heaven help you if they shop you. You won't get out until you're old and grey, if then.
Which is just one of several reasons why I'll make sure they don't get me.
What a lad. How do you get away with it?
I'll tell you in my memoir.
Good old Nev. Oh, sorry, I mean Jimmy.
Now, look here. Give me your address. I'll get in touch with you. We've got a job on a day after tomorrow. A Swagger West End house with a tidy collection of jewels in it. I know, because I went to dinner there last night.
Will I fit in?
My dear chap, you fit in beautifully. The jewels are locked up, but there's nothing you can't handle. In fact, it couldn't be better. You're on the road to riches. Come on, let's have another drink.
Thanks. I'll have to be shoving off now.
Why? What's the rush?
Well, you said you've got a date coming here.
Oh, that's all right. Matter of fact, the dear thing doesn't know she's got a date with me yet. She thinks she's going off with another fellow who's supposed to meet us here later. But she's coming with me.
Sounds complicated.
It won't be. You'll see.
You know, it must be nice
What nice?
to be like you. I've heard a lot of rot about men who have power over women, but you're the only chap I've ever met who's really got it. Any woman, I mean. Remember that afternoon when we were in Brighton?
Oh, spare my blushes and have another drink.
Ah, now we have it. The one thing genuine about this phony, his power over women. The girls, bless them, seem to have a way of falling for the worthless adventurer type. The girl he's been waiting for is coming into the club now. Let me describe her to you. She's not pretty. She's lovely. She's been an artist model, and just recently she started to break into pictures. The studio people have their eye on her, and well they might. Figure? Superb, of course. Clothes? Extravagantly simple and in perfect taste. Taste? Ah, we haven't got time to go into raptures. But you will gather that she's a very tasty dish. She's seen her friend, and she's going towards his table.
Hello, Jimmy. Where's Rex?
Oh, he rang up to say he might be a bit late.
You'd better have a good excuse.
Marjorie, my love, let me introduce an old friend of mine, Roy Carter. Mrs. Marjorie Gardner, Roy Carter.
Hello.
How do you do?
Yes, a bit breathtaking, isn't she?
Isn't he sweet?
Now, just for that, you can have a drink. What'll it be?
Something tall and cold and full of gin.
Oh, have a care, hussy. That description fits the woman I love.
Oh, Jimmy, you're priceless. I love you.
What, already?
Oh, don't be so literal. In movie studio lingo, I love you means...
It's a nice day.
I see. Then you're in films.
Of course she is, old man. You think the movie directors are blind?
Oh, stop teasing me, you boots, and someone get me a drink.
Princess, to hear is to obey. Harry, I want a love filter and 2 scotches.
I suppose you're wondering whether this charming young grass widow, Mrs. Gardner, Marjorie that is, knows that this new circle of acquaintances she's picked up, Jimmy among them, are crooks. Well, I'm afraid she does. Oh, yes, she's going into it with her lovely eyes wide open. She's quite sure she knows how to take care of herself. But we can't warn Marjorie of this. Besides, she wouldn't take any notice. She's having too good a time, and Jimmy is lazily, confidently exercising that dangerous charm of his.
I say, Marjorie, you really want to spend the evening with Rex?
Obviously, Jimmy, dearest. Well, why should I be here?
I just thought I'd ask, because, as a matter of fact, I had other plans.
Oh? I'm flattered.
It's my fault Rex is late. I asked him to do something for me on his way down here.
Oh, I see.
I don't think you do. I wanted a chance to skip off with you myself before he arrived.
I should be very angry.
Are you?
No. Now I suppose your friend Mr. Carter's shocked.
Oh, don't mind me. I'm shock-proof. Carry on. This is interesting.
Well, Rex has kept me waiting. You wouldn't do that, would you, Jimmy?
I never try and predict what I'd do. Why should I? The point is, how about it?
How about what?
Oh, don't stall, darling. Say the word and I leave a message for Rex to meet us at the Lamplighters Club. And then we just won't turn up.
It's a bit rough on Rex, isn't it?
But we can have a lot of fun.
After all, Rex did keep me waiting.
And that's that. Major Jimmy Armstrong, as he calls himself, has made another conquest. What sort of picture have you formed of this man so far? Worthless? A vain impostor? No more than that? But wait. All this happened on a Thursday night, sometime we don't know when, either that night or early the next morning. When we again pick up the trail of this man, he's at a railway station. At this time, he's in Royal Air Force uniform. And he's promoted himself again. He's a group captain, no less. Watch him. He's booking a ticket to Southampton. Yes, he's perfectly calm, unhurried. Apparently he hasn't a care in the world. Gives a lavish tip and a smile to the porter carrying his suitcase and swings onto the train. At 2 p.m. on Friday afternoon, the horribly mutilated body of Marjorie Gardner is found in a London hotel room. And Inspector Spooner of Scotland Yard is hot on the trail of
Neville George Cleveley Heath, alias Major Jimmy Armstrong, alias Squadron Leader Walker, alias Jimmy Dudley, known to the police. Previous charges for breaking and entering, burglary, fraud and deception, impersonating an officer.
And now he's wanted for murder. Neville George Cleveley Heath. That's his real name. Remember it? The case made a stir all over the world when it hit the headlines in June 1946. That's our suave, fascinating crook, Heath, one of the most brutal murderers of modern times. Heath is on the run. He knows the police will be after him. What is he thinking about while the train carries him southward, away from London, and the pitiful remains of the girl with whom he danced so light-heartedly the night before? What's going on in his mind? I can tell you. We know because he talked about it later. Almost casually, apparently without any feeling, he told his thoughts in all their brutal truth.
What am I going to do? I'm really in the soup this time. How am I going to cover up? This is murder. They're sure to find the body soon. What am I going to do? Come on, come on. I've always managed to think my way out before, but this is a bad one. But I'm clever enough, I can outthink them. I can get out of this, too, if I can get the right answer.
No, Neville Heath, you can't talk your way out of murder. Nothing you've ever done before can match this. Oh, yes, we know all about your back history, how you were sent to Boston for breaking into your friend's home and robbing them, how you were released during the war to serve your country, how you masqueraded as an officer both in South Africa and in England, and how you were dismissed the service, how you preyed on women, made love to them, and borrowed their money. We know about the sadistic streak in your nature. It's always been there. It even showed up in your childhood. But this time, you've gone too far.
No, I can get out of this mess, too. Say I was drunk? Oh, that won't do. I'll tell them I had a blackout. I didn't know what I was doing. No. I've used that excuse too often before. They might not believe me this time. And they've got to believe me. How can I make it strong enough? How can I persuade them I was off my head at the time? Off my head. Yes, that's my defense. That's it. Out of my mind. Insane. I was insane at the time. I must have been, and I'll prove it to them. I'll do it again.
No, you can't do that. It's horrible. Unspeakable.
I'll do it. I'll find another girl, and I'll kill her, too. And when they see her body, they'll know only a madman could have done it. They'll know beyond any doubt that the man who killed her is insane.
By forgery, fraud, and sponging on the admiration of women, Neville Heath had always had the things he wanted. All his life he'd gambled against the law. Now he's facing his biggest gamble of all. His own life is at stake. To save himself from hanging for murder, he must give convincing proof of his insanity. Well, at worst, this will mean only a few years at Broadmoor Criminal Lunatic Asylum. For naturally, after a time, he'll be able to convince the authorities he's been cured and will be given his release. He's fooled people all over the world. Of course, he'll be able to fool the doctors at Broadmoor, but he must plan carefully. Very carefully. Heath is in Bournemouth now, and is registered at one of the best hotels as Group Captain Rupert Brooke. And already in a few days, he's been there, he's become known as a good RAF type and a pleasant companion. Doreen Marshall, a pretty girl of 21, thinks he's fascinating. Yes, it hasn't taken long for Heath to make another conquest. Flattered by the marked attentions of this handsome young man, Doreen has been dining with Heath at his hotel. And Heath is turning on all his charm. See him there, bending confidentially towards Doreen, pleading with her to stay on just a little longer. But she isn't to be persuaded.
Just one more drink, one for the road.
I think I've had enough, thanks. It has been fun, and I've enjoyed the evening tremendously.
But it's much too early to be going home. You couldn't leave me all alone on such a lovely night.
Please, I must be going. Will you have the porter call a taxi for me?
Oh, no need for that. I'll take you back to your hotel myself.
I'd much rather go by taxi, if you don't mind.
Smart girl, Doreen. Obviously, she doesn't trust our smooth-mannered group captain. How very wise of her. But Heath has laid his plans carefully. Time is growing short, and the police are likely to close in on him at any moment now. He can easily outthink this inexperienced young girl. So, as they go out into the hotel lobby, Heath speaks casually to the porter.
By the way, Stevens, you can cancel that taxi for Miss Marshall. I'm going to make sure she gets safely home myself.
Very good, sir.
Oh, but I haven't changed my mind.
Oh, come on, darling. The sea breeze will do us both a lot of good.
Oh, very well.
I'll be back in half an hour, Stevens.
No, he'll be back in 15 minutes.
All right, have it your own way, darling. You know best.
But Neville Heath was not back in 15 minutes. As a matter of fact, nobody saw him come in that night. But when the porter brought up the papers at 8 o'clock in the morning, Heath was in his room, asleep.
Sorry to wake you, sir. I know you like your papers first thing.
Yeah? Oh, it's all right, Stevens. Any interesting news this morning?
Just as depressing as usual, sir.
Oh, that latest London murder. Have they caught the bloody yet?
No, they're still looking for him, sir.
Ah, nasty business that was. Hope they get him soon.
Yes, sir. By the way, sir, I didn't see you come in last night.
Oh, I didn't think you did. In fact, I took good care you shouldn't. I told you I'd fool you some night and get in without that eagle eye of yours spotting me.
I'd like to know how you did it, sir. I locked the front door myself at 11:30.
I'll tell you sometime, perhaps, but not just yet. I might want to use that same method of entry again.
Well, judging from your shoes, sir, last night you spent some time walking on the beach.
What's that?
Your shoes, sir. See, there's a ridge of sand right around them.
Eh?
No offense meant, I'm sure.
Oh, no, that's all right. Take him along and have him cleaned for me. That's a good job.
Yes, sir.
Cool customer, isn't he? And in the same unflustered manner, he later answered the hotel manager's worried questions. The lady guest who was missing from one of the other hotels in Bournemouth, could it be the same young lady who had dined here with Group Captain Brooke the previous evening? Perhaps he'd be kind enough to telephone the police? Heath privately decided to let police come for him. They did, in short order. An urgent message from Detective George Suter of the Bournemouth police came for Heath.
Hello? Detective Suter speaking.
Is that you, Suter?
Yes?
Well, this is Group Captain Brooke here. I understand from the hotel manager that you want to talk to me. I'm on the seafront. Come down and see me.
Well, as you seem to be on holiday, I suggest you come up and see me.
Where? At the police station?
Yes, naturally.
I suppose I'll have to, if I can find the beastly place. I'll be along this afternoon.
And so began the battle of wits between the police and Heath. Is Heath clever enough to get away with it?
So you can see we're concerned about Miss Marshall's disappearance.
Well, when she left after dinner, we walked along to the beach and chatted a while. Her hotel was close by, and she said she'd gone alone from there. So I said goodbye and left her.
Had you arranged another meeting with her?
No, as a matter of fact, I hadn't. There was a possibility of her returning to London within the next few days.
I see. And she was dressed in evening clothes, you say?
Yes. She's a very charming young girl. I should be distressed to hear that anything serious had happened to her.
Quite. Excuse me a moment. Detective Suter speaking.
Hello, George. This is Spooner in London. I'm in charge of the Marjorie Gardner murder, you know.
Oh, yes.
We're on the lookout for a fellow called Neville Heath. Pretty certain he did the job. And I personally think he's on the south coast. Might even be in our neighborhood.
Yes, that's a distinct possibility.
You've got a copy of his picture that we've circulated to all stations, of course?
Yes.
Not a very good one, but it'll have to do.
I think it's entirely adequate.
This Group Captain Brooke you rang us about this morning, I'm wondering if there could be any connection...
I couldn't agree with you more.
You know his present whereabouts?
Most certainly. And he couldn't be better.
What? Good heavens, man. Don't tell me you've actually got him at the station.
We're bosom friends at the moment.
You mean he's actually in the room with you?
Yes, just as close as two peas in a pod.
Well, he hasn't caught on to our conversation, has he?
Oh, no. No chance of that.
Can you hold him there?
I haven't got a charge of any kind that'll stick.
Well, think fast. Keep him talking. Take him out of tea. Do anything. Only hold on to that man until I get the Bowman from London. I'm leaving at once.
Right, you are. My apologies, sir.
Oh, that's all right. I know they keep you police pretty busy with one thing and another. I've been amusing myself looking at this picture here on your wall.
Which one? Oh, yes. Neville Heath. Bad lot. Wanted for murder. It's an odd thing, you know. He rather resembles you.
Yes, that's just what I was thinking myself.
You wouldn't be Neville Heath, I suppose?
Well, definitely not. Well, I must admit we seem to look pretty much alike. I say, you'd better give me a signed pass or something to prove I'm not the man you're after. Otherwise, I might find it a bit embarrassing.
Well, that sounds like a good idea. First, let's have some proof of your own identity.
Well, I haven't any of my papers on me, but I can certainly tell you about myself. Now, to begin with, I'm stationed at Dalston Aerodrome in Leicester, and I was flying down and got stranded by bad weather.
Now the really difficult part of Detective Suter's task begins. Heath knows he must not appear too anxious to get away. Suter plays on this. Heath, an abnormal egotist, loves nothing better than to talk about himself. Suter plays on this too. For a solid hour, the two of them sit on the garden wall outside the police station, chatting about their war experiences. Then Heath rises to go. Suter stops him. It's tea time. He suggests Heath join him inside for tea. Who says the British habit of tea in the afternoon introduces? Another hour goes by. Again Heath makes a move. Again Suter stops him, playing for time. Always playing for those few extra minutes that will bring it nearer to the moment when Inspector Spooner, from London, will arrive. Heath and the detective. Talking.
Tell me, Brooke, what sort of plane were you flying when you were strapping the German staff cars?
Both fighters. They were armed with rockets.
Heath, that's a bad slip. You're forgetting that Detective Suter was with the 11th Armored Division and knows a thing or two himself. And he knows the planes you were flying were not fitted with rockets. Listen, he's testing you again.
Oh, you were in the cab rank?
Yes, that's right. I was for a while. And then I went on to other things.
That's torn it. Heath, as a group captain, certainly ought to know that bow fighters were not used in what was called the cab rank. That is, planes kept standing by ready for calls from armored divisions needing support. Suter knows this, and he's now convinced beyond the last shred of doubt that the man he's dealing with is Neb Heath. The scarf around Heath's neck has just slipped off, and as he picks it up, he sees the detective watching him intently.
How do you get those scratches on your neck, Group Captain Brooke?
No? Oh, that's nothing, just an irritation. Sunburn, I suppose.
They look to me like the marks left by a girl's fingernails. Marks left by a girl struggling to free herself from a man like you.
It isn't true.
You're Neville Heath. Come on, you might as well admit it.
I am not. I'm Rupert Brooke. I've told you so.
But Suter piles on the pressure now, calls his bluff, rips his story to pieces, and again identifies him. He sees that Heath has hypnotized himself with his orgy of lying, and Heath cracks.
Oh, right, blast you. Yes, I am Neville Heath, and much good may it do you.
Statement to the police, Heath denied having killed Marjorie Gardner and insisted that as far as he knew, Doreen Marshall was still alive. But in the pockets of his sports jacket were found three vital pieces of evidence. A single pearl, later proved to be one from the necklace Doreen Marshall was wearing the night Heath murdered her. The return half of a first-class train ticket between London and Bournemouth, later proved to belong to Doreen Marshall. The third item, a ticket for a suitcase left at the railway luggage office at Bournemouth. This case contained the whip Heath had used in his savage killing of Marjorie Gardner. Later, much more evidence was found that definitely linked Neville Heath with both murders. Heath was charged with the murder of Marjorie Gardner and sent to Brixton Prison. It was several days later before the corpse of poor little Doreen Marshall was found hidden away in a lonely gully near the beach at Bournemouth. The police, hardened by experience to ghastly sights, had to turn their heads away from the terrible injuries to the body. Injuries which could only have been inflicted by, no, not a madman, but a devil. Will you think it's strange when I tell you that Heath's friends rallied to his assistance? Oh, yes, he still had friends left who believed him human. They thought he was a schizophrenic, a Jekyll and Hyde personality, only half responsible for his acts. During his trial at the Old Bailey, Heath's legal advisers admitted he had killed both Marjorie Gardner and Doreen Marshall.
But gentlemen of the jury, in admitting that, does it not prove this man is not an ordinary sadist, an ordinary dishonest man, but mad as a hatter, absolutely insane, a maniac? Can he have been anything else?
Was he? Let me tell you what happened when Heath saw in a newspaper a reconstruction of the way he is supposed to have got back into his hotel room that night after his second revolting murder.
This isn't how it happened. I want my lawyers called here, and I'll tell them how I really did get back. That ladder was on the left-hand side of the window, not on the right. I insist on seeing my lawyers immediately.
Oh, do you, Neville Heath? What for? Aren't you forgetting you're a schizophrenic? Aren't you forgetting this whole affair was a complete blackout to you? How could you possibly remember which side the ladder was on? Or is it all still a very clear picture in your mind? A jury of his fellow men answered for him, guilty. So Neville George Cleveley Heath paid for his crime, and on the morning of Wednesday, the 16th of October, was hanged at Pentonville Prison. A grim tale of a twisted life, and a man of many gifts who couldn't use them. And even grimmer is this footnote, but I think it has its bit of humor, too. A foreign journalist, tough, hardened by years of crime reporting, paid a visit to Scotland Yard's Black Museum. He asked to see the photographs of Heath's victims. Somewhat dubiously, the inspector unlocked the drawer and produced the pictures. The journalist took one look, shuddered, and collapsed against the nearest showcase. There was a loud clatter of broken glass. The hard-boiled journalist had fainted.
How do you do? This is Clive Brooks. Now, far be it from me to condone murder in any shape or form, but I'm afraid that despite the enormity of his crimes, I shall always have a sneaking regard for one Walter Miller, who, 80-odd years ago, was very rightly hanged by the neck until he was dead. Miller's victims totaled 2, and the killing in each case was premeditated, cold-blooded, and brutal. Moreover, his crimes were permitted for the most sordid of motives, gain. And yet, there was something about the man, something that emerges from the bare record. A boldness, an audacity, a sort of perverted, reckless courage, if you like. His philosophy was simple. A short life and a merry one. He knew full well what the cost would be, yet he called the tune he wanted. And when settling time came, he paid the piper without a whine or a snivel or a plea for mercy. Of how many murderers can we say the same? When Walter Miller worked, he was a bricklayer and plasterer. I say when he worked, because he hated work of any kind, and did no more of it than was necessary to keep him in liquor, food, and tobacco. Miller made no secret of his antipathy to honest toil. In fact, it was his favorite topic of conversation. So one night in the year 1870, in a little pub in Chelsea, we find him expounding as usual.
The curse of mankind.
If I was then one of them politicians, I'd ban it below.
Yeah, now, wait a minute. That don't make sense, Wall.
Oh, why not, may I ask?
Well, someone's got to work, and they own nothing would ever get done.
Well, of course they have. I'm not talking about everyone. I'm just talking about me.
And what makes you so different from us ordinary coves that we have to sweat for a living and you don't?
Well, I wasn't meant for work. I was meant for the bright lights and the gay lights. Money in me pocket and a good-looking bit of skirt on me arm. Snap me fingers and along comes a waiter, bobbing and scraping. Bubbly for two, sir? Yes, sir. Certainly, sir. Nothing but the best for Wally Miller.
Blimey! He thinks he's Lord Vere de Vere.
All right, laugh if you like, but that's how it's gonna be someday. You see if it ain't.
Yeah, what are you going to do, Wall? Turn highwayman? They're a bit out of date, you know.
Maybe you could rob the old lady at Threadneedle Street.
Or murder a millionaire or something.
That's it. Find some old girl with a well-filled purse. Cost you more than you set up for life. That's if the peelers don't get you.
Never you mind what I'm gonna do. Just you wait and see, that's all.
Oh, Mr. Bloomin' Millionaire Miller, eh? Here. Come on, Eggy, come on. Oh, fill him up again.
Many a true word, they say, is spoken in jest. Among Miller's casual employers was the Reverend Elias Hewlin, a middle-aged bachelor who lived with only a housekeeper in a house in Norton Wales. The Reverend Hewlin was something of a recluse. Hundreds of them by sight had no friends. Norton months would pass without a solitary visitor at Paulson Square. Unlike most clergymen, he was a shrewd man who invested money in real estate. Practice was to dilapidated houses, have them repaired, then sell at a profit. One day the Reverend gentleman approached Miller at his lodgings.
I want to have a few free to do a job.
Blimey. More work. Oh, yeah, work on it.
No, there's no way to talk. I'm a coat shirt. The patient, you know.
There'll be a lot of draft doors you can work. Well, job, Reverend.
I've just quite a office, number 55, Wellington Square.
Other lad. Must own half of Chelsea by now. Wants a bit of doing up, I suppose, eh?
Yes, it is in rather a bad state of repair at the moment. The woodwork needs repainting. I should say there's about a month's work in it altogether.
Oh, well, might as well make a martyr of myself. When do you want me to start?
Would Monday be suitable?
I suppose so.
Splendid. I'll be there at 8 a.m. To tell you exactly what's to be done.
To give Miller his due, when he did knuckle down, he was a good workman, quick and competent. By the end of the first week, the job was well advanced, a point which the clergyman noted with satisfaction on the Friday afternoon when he called to pay Miller his wages.
Very good. Very good indeed. That wall needs just a little more smoothing off, don't you think?
Yes, well, I'll get that done on Monday. There's a few bricks loose here in the fireplace, but I'll fix them too.
Splendid. Well, I suppose you'd like some money, eh?
I'm not doing this for the good of my health, Governor.
Quite. Let me see now. £2 a week's our usual rate, isn't it?
That's right.
Well, here we are. There you are, my man. 1, 2.
Oh, thank you kindly, sir. If you don't mind me saying so, you're taking a bit of a risk, aren't you, Reverend?
Risk? What do you mean?
Oh, carrying all that money around. Bit of a temptation for somebody to knock you down and rob you, ain't it?
Oh, nonsense. This is a law-abiding city.
That's what you think. I'd play safe and put it in the bank if I was you.
Oddly enough, Miller, I'm one of those old-fashioned people who don't believe very much in such institutions. I've always conducted my affairs on the principle that a pound in the hand is worth 2 in the bank.
Well, so long as you know what you're doing, Governor.
I fancy I do. Good day, Miller. Keep up the good work. I shall see you again next Friday.
Very good, sir.
Try as he would, Miller could not forget the sight of that well-filled purse of sovereigns. It was with him during the weekend, and it kept coming back to him all the following week as he worked alone in the empty house in Wellington Square.
Thanks, hand in the hand, he says. That means there must be more where the lot in his purse come from. Somewhere in the house. Quite a nice haul for someone. Yes, quite a nice haul. With all that money, a cove wouldn't have to work no more. He could live a good sort of life, he could. Risky, though. It'd take courage. Bound to be found out sooner or later. Still, what the hell? Get a bit of fun out of life, that's my motto. And then take what's coming to you. bitterest thoughts. Anyone else would have brushed them aside, but not Miller. They stayed with him all through that fateful week till they became an obsession.
Could be done, you know. The old boy ain't got no friends to speak of. And if anyone got curious about him, you could always let him drop his gone on holiday to France or somewhere. Of course, there's that old shroud of an housekeeper, but she'd be easy enough to fix.
By Friday, Miller's mind was made up, his plan complete. Suspecting nothing, the Reverend Mr. Hewlin arrived at his usual time to see how the work was progressing.
You're doing a first-rate job, my man. I'm more than pleased.
Oh, it's kind of you to say so, sir.
Not at all. Credit's where credit's due, you know. What? There's your money.
Oh, thank you, sir.
I shall see you again next week.
Oh, half a minute before you go, Governor.
What is it?
Looks to me like there's a bit of dry rot in that there woodwork, and I was wondering what you want me to do with it.
Whereabouts do you mean?
Well, that beam over the doorway, sir.
It was a vicious blow delivered from behind that broke the skull. It probably killed the clergyman instantly, but Miller was taking no chances. He strangled his victim as well to make sure. A grave had already been dug in the basement. It was a matter of a few minutes to bury the body and obliterate all traces. The first half of his plan had gone through without a hitch.
Well, that's that. You're doing all right so far, Warwick. Now for number 2.
The victim's purse of gold in his pocket. Straight away round to the house in Fulton Square went the murderer. He rang the bell, and a moment later the front door was opened by the Reverend Hewlin's housekeeper, Ann Boss.
Oh, you, Mr. Miller. The master isn't in.
Oh, no, he ain't. I just left him at Wellington Square. He says there's a bit of plaster coming away in the kitchen and he wants me to fix.
Not that I'm aware of.
Well, I'm only going by what he says.
Oh, well, you better come in and have a look then.
No hurry, Mum. If you've got visitors or anything like that, I can easily come back.
Who ever heard of me having visitors?
Oh, if you're quite sure it's convenient.
Oh, come on. Get it over and done with. Stand there in the doorway all night arguing.
All right, I'm coming, ain't I? Where's the kitchen?
Well, where do you think? In the basement, of course. Down them stairs.
Yeah, fair tartar, ain't you? Something smells good on the stove.
You get on with what you've got to do, Walter Miller.
All right. Yeah, looks good enough to me. I can't see nothing wrong, can you?
Well, that's what I told you before. It was only done last year.
Ah, I got you, I think. Look, how about that patch over the stove?
Where?
Look, right up near the ceiling. You see what I mean?
What, that tiny crack?
A couple more blows to make certain, and Ann Boss had gone, we hoped, to join her reverend employer. This time, Miller was faced with a bigger problem regarding the disposal of the body. He couldn't bury it in the garden for fear of observation. He could have lifted the stone flags of the kitchen floor and dug a grave under it, of course, but it was getting late, and the golden sovereigns in his pocket were burning a hole, demanding to be spent. He found a wooden packing case in a box room on the ground floor, carried the body up, dumped it in, and had just begun nailing up the top when someone at the door. This was the one chance Miller had to take. Should he answer it and risk it being a friend of one of his victims who would insist on entering and then see the body? Or should he let it ring and pretend no one was at home? But there were the hammer blows. They were bound to have been heard. He had to take the chance. He walked to the door.
Good evening, dearie. Like to buy a nice bit of jewelry for your wife.
No.
Real gold brooch.
No.
Only 5 bob.
No, I don't want it.
A pair of earrings, then. Dirt cheap at half the price.
I'll tell you, I don't want nothing. Be off with you.
Oh, don't be hard on an old woman, dearie. How about a lucky charm, then? Guaranteed to bring you 7 years good luck.
Ha! Old wives' tale.
Oh, split me if it ain't true. Never been known to fail.
Well, how much?
2 bob to you, Duck.
All right. I'll take it. Here's half a crown. Keep the change.
Bless you, dear. May your soul go to heaven when you die.
Fat chance of that.
For a moment, Miller stood looking at the tawdry little charm as it lay in the open palm of his hand.
7 days more like it. Well, come on, Wally Miller. Stop mooning around there. You know the old saying. Eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow knows.
And with this deeply philosophical, if not highly original, reflection, Walter Miller picked up his hammer and returned to complete his gruesome task. It takes a tough man to commit 2 murders during an afternoon and to banish them from his mind the same night. But Walter Miller was equal to the task. He bartered his life and his soul for one gay fling, and he was determined to enjoy it to the full while it lasted. The encasing of the mortal remains of Anne Boss completed, his pockets full of the Reverend Hewlin sovereigns, he headed for that centre of London's evening gaiety, the West End. And there, as he walked down the crowded Haymarket, whistling a jaunty tune...
Hello, Wally.
Well, if you take the old pal Liz, haven't seen you in a dog's age. Where have you been?
Where have you been, you mean? You look very pleased with yourself.
Why not? Why not, indeed? Listen to this, Dux.
Cool. What's the lay, Wally?
What do you mean, what's the lay? Can't a man come by a few quid on his life?
No offence meant, I'm sure.
And none taken neither. Now, what are you doing tonight, Bill?
Well, I was on my way to meet a gentleman friend, but...
You've already met him, by the name of Walter Miller. That's right, ain't it?
Oh, I really shouldn't, you know. It ain't fair.
Come on, come on.
Well,
We'll make a real night of it, eh? First of all, a slab-up feed at one of them fancy cafes, and then a sip of the cup what cheers, and then a music hall. What do you say, Dux?
I'm always so weak when I'm with you, Wally. I just can't say no somehow.
That's a spirit. You stick with me, Lil. You won't regret it, I promise you.
What a night that was, to be sure. The best food money could buy, the best liquor, champagne flowing like water, the best seats at the theatre. Only the best was good enough for wealthy Walter Miller. This was life, as he'd always dreamed of it, the only sort of life worth living. And if the hour of reckoning loomed not far ahead, well, let it come. As for Lil, she'd always been one to take what came and enjoy it to the full. But she couldn't get her mind off that pile of gold in her companion's pocket, and woman-like she was determined to know where it came from. By midnight, Miller was in such an alcoholic glow that he was prepared to admit almost anything.
Oh, come on, Dux. Just one more drink. Let's have another bottle, eh?
Oh, I don't know whether we should, Wal.
Why not?
You spent so much already, it don't seem right.
Oh, plenty more where that come from. Hey, wait up. Yes, sir? Another bottle of the same. Very good, sir.
Oh, well, if you're sure it's all right, you certainly must have struck it lucky.
Oh,
Wal.
lucky ain't the word for it, Dux.
What you do? Kill a Chinaman?
What do you mean?
Oh, I was only joking. Oh, you're hurting my wrist.
Oh, sorry. Suppose, I was to tell you.
Tell me what, Wally?
Never mind.
That you, had killed anybody?
You said it, Lil, not me.
So that's what you mean, though, ain't it?
Maybe. What are you trying to make me say?
You can tell me, Wally, I ain't the kind of splitting a friend.
Oh, wonder.
Honest, I'm not. You want to know me well enough by now.
Well, all right, then. Tomorrow. You come round to 15 Bolton Square, Chelsea, and I'll tell you then. Maybe.
That night, Walter Miller slept in the Reverend Hewlin's bed. He woke next morning late with a splitting headache, no more than a vague recollection of the later stages of the previous night, and several unsolved problems still to be dealt with. The first was resolved easily enough. There was a knock on the side door, and Miller opened it to find a young man wearing a butcher's apron.
Well, if it's not William Miller, what you doing here? Working?
If it's any business of yours, which I don't see as how it is, I'm looking after the place.
Well, where's Mrs. Boss? She didn't leave an order yesterday, so I come to find out what she wants.
Mrs. Boss is away on holidays. Likewise, if you want to know, Mr. Hewlin.
Oh. Bit sudden, ain't it?
Not at all. It was arranged last week that I should come and keep an eye on things.
Well, where's he gone? Mr. Hewlin, I mean.
I have it on good authority he is now in France. Is there anything else you want to know?
Well, there's no need to get narky, Wall. I just wondered, that's all. When shall I call again?
Mrs. I'll let you as soon as you back.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Not tall enough. Every neighborhood knew that had also worked for the clergyman, and quite likely to be called in to act as caretaker during Mr. Hewlin's absence. He was well aware the story was soon around among tradesmen, and that from this point of view he was safe enough, time being at least. Of course, still under the disposal of housekeeper's list. He was trying to make up his mind about that when the doorbell rang. This time it was Lil. Lil had forgotten his voice to be night, and for a while he did emphatic that there was nothing to tell. But Lil was determined to get at the truth, and at last it came out. Miller omitted nothing.
As my bad as I do. Why don't you say something?
I don't know what to say. You're not just on my leg about all this, are you?
Have a look in that back case, if you don't me. So I've got to look at that for you.
No.
Well, it's up to you, Lil.
How do you mean?
What are you going to do? Give me away?
I told you last night I never spent a pound.
Do you mean that?
Of course I do.
All right. You and me are in this together from now on.
No, I don't want to be.
Why not? I'll play clear we will. It'll be share likewise. We had a good one last night, didn't we?
Yes.
Well, that's nothing to what we're going to have. Old boy didn't trust banks, you know. Kept most of his money here. I've been going through the place this morning. Oh, you wouldn't believe it if I told you how much I'd found.
But aren't you scared, Wally?
Scared? What about?
That you'll be found out.
Well, of course I'll be found out sooner or later. You can't get away with this kind of thing forever, you know.
But they'll hang you, won't they?
Well, let them. Why should I care? I'll have had me good time first. So long as they don't nab me before I've had a chance to enjoy myself. What's the odds?
But they might hang me too.
No, you'll be all right, Lil. I'll swear you didn't know nothing about it. They can't prove you did. What do you say, Dux? Are you on?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, come on, in for a penny, in for a pound.
Well, I suppose I might as well be.
That's the spirit. We're going to have such a beano tonight as you never dreamed about.
Oh, there's just one thing, Wally.
What?
That packing case, you've got to get rid of it.
I'll do that tomorrow.
No, you've got to do it now. It's too dangerous to have lying around.
Oh, who do you think's going to see it? I'll tell you, I'll see it goes tomorrow. Ah, come on, Dux, don't worry about that. Let's go to town, shall we? I've a bit of shopping to do at the chemist, and then I'll buy you the best diamond ring we can find in London.
If Miller and his girlfriend had painted the West End a pale shade of pink the previous evening, they painted it a bright crimson this time. Now that she knew the truth and had morally made herself an accessory after the fact, Lil was as desperately anxious as her companion to extract the last drop of gaiety from every hour, and this they certainly did. Once more, when he woke up next morning, Walter Miller faced the new day with a terrific hangover and with the problem of the packing case still unsolved. He knew he'd have to do something about that today. Besides, he'd promised Lil. So, after a great deal of cogitation, he went round to the stables of a carrier named Piper, an honest and simple fellow whom he'd met casually in various pubs.
Got a small job for you, Jack. Oh, what's it? Well, I'm keeping house for the Reverend Hewlin while he's abroad on holiday, you know. Ah, so I've heard. There was a packing case there with some of his stuff in it. He left word I was to have it took to a house he owns in Fulham.
Ah, well, what tomorrow do?
Well, I'd like to get it out of the way today if I could. It's standing in the front hall and it gets a bit in the way.
Ah, all right, then I'll be round about 3 o'clock. Will that suit?
I'll be looking out for you. Needn't bother to bring no one else. It ain't so heavy that you and I can't handle it.
And so the die was cast. Miller's choice had been a shrewd one. Piper was a big, strong fellow without an ounce of viciousness in him and unlikely to suspect it in others. The house at Fulham was another belonging to the Reverend Hewlin that lay empty at the moment. It was in an isolated position with a back garden well sheltered from possible curious eyes, and there at his leisure, Miller could bury the body of the unfortunate Mrs. Boss. Lil arrived early in the afternoon, and though they both pretended to be casual, there was an obvious mounting of nervous tension as the clock hands approached 3. And then, at last...
Well, here goes Lil.
Suppose he finds out. It's too big a risk, Wally. Send him away.
Don't be silly. It's got to be done sooner or later.
Oh, couldn't we just hire a van and do it ourselves late at night?
And have everyone in the street sticking their noses in and asking awkward questions. This is the only way. Open and straightforward and take a chance. Keep your fingers crossed, Duck. Ah, right on time, eh?
Yeah. Well, have you got the case ready?
Yes, it's just through here in the hall. There you are.
A pretty big one, eh? What's in it?
Dunno. Just carrying out the parson's orders.
Ah. Oh, well, better get to work, I suppose. Yeah, the cords are a bit loose, aren't they?
No, they're all right.
Oh, well, I'll just tighten up the knots a bit.
Leave 'em alone. Understand?
Now, listen here, Walter Miller. I wouldn't be a carrier if I didn't know my job. And I'm telling you, I'd not trust a box tied like that in my van. It'd fall to bits. No, it'll only take me a few seconds.
I said leave him alone, didn't I?
There, what do you see? Loose as anything. Everywhere. Here. What's this?
What's what?
On my fingers. It's blood. Here, shut up, Bill.
You must have cut your hand.
What's in that case, Walter Miller?
Oh, I'm getting out of here.
Bill, come back. Now I see what you've done. You've scared the poor girl half out of her wits, you silly fool. Now, just get on with the job or I'll call someone else.
I'm not leaving here until that case is open.
Now, look here.
Now, will you open it or will I?
I'll tell you that...
All right, then. Here goes.
Miller knew the game was up. His fingers strayed to his waistcoat pocket, where reposed a phial of laudanum, which, unknown to Little, he had bought the previous day. Then, from the corner of his eye, he saw the front doorway Lil had left open in a hurried flight. It was a desperate chance, but it was a chance. Along Polton Square he raced, with Piper close behind.
Stop that man! Stop him, what's that? Here, stop him!
Passers-by joined in the chase. A few yards clear of his nearest pursuer, Miller turned the corner and ran straight into the arms of a policeman.
Here, what's going on? Not so far.
Other police came running and Miller was overpowered. Piper made a hurried explanation. The arrested man was taken back to the house, and there, while he stood closely guarded, the packing case was opened and its ghastly contents revealed.
It's Mrs. Boss, the housekeeper. Well, Miller, what have you got to say for yourself? Yeah, quickly, stop him. He's put something in his mouth.
Too late. You're all too late. It's laudanum.
Try to cheat the hangman, eh? We'll soon see about that. Run down to the kitchen, someone, and get some salt and water. Plenty of.
The emetic was crudely administered, but it did its job. And a little later, disheveled and sick, Walter Miller was taken to the police station and charged. Once he saw the game was up, he admitted everything except one point. True to his promise to Lil, he stuck doggedly to his statement that she had been, all through, in complete ignorance of the whole affair. At the trial before Lord Chief Justice Coburn, an attempt was made to plead insanity on Miller's behalf, but this was quickly dismissed by the prosecution.
If some of the accused acts were extraordinary, others indicated that he was possessed of a cunning and clear-thinking brain, and that he was a man of more than extraordinary intelligence. He both murdered with consummate daring and took every conceivable step that a sane and clever man would to avoid detection. To argue that these were the acts of a madman would be to throw doubt on the sanity of every man and woman here in this court.
The verdict was guilty, and before sentence of death was passed, Miller had only one thing to say.
Well, I've had my fling and it was worth it. Now I suppose I've got to pay.
And pay he did 3 weeks later to the full extent of the law. Well, that's all for now. But I'll be back again soon to tell you some more of the secrets of Scotland Yard. Meanwhile, this is Clive Brooks saying goodbye and pleasant dreams. How do you do? You've heard me speak of Percy Hoskins, the crime reporter. Well, this time I brought him along, and if he wasn't standing here listening, I'd tell you that he's probably the greatest crime reporter we've ever had in this country. Not that you'd guess it by his appearance. A big, genial fellow, doesn't seem to be at all depressed by his life with crime. Percy, if I hadn't known you, I might have taken you for, let me see, a lawyer. No, you look too happy for a lawyer. Not quite. I know, an actor. A character actor.
You would, Clive?
Yes, I think so. That's right. A character actor. Now, if you hadn't known me, what would you say I was?
A crime reporter.
You would? Thanks very much. Seriously, though, Percy, is there anything in physiognomy? Does Scotland Yard take any account of, let us say, criminal types?
They used to. Hence the collection of death masks of murderers in the Black Museum. Scotland Yard had these made in the hope of discovering some common feature or similarity. But it didn't work out.
No, I don't quite agree with that. When I see a picture of a murderer, he always looks like a criminal to me.
Of course he does. That's because you know he's a murderer.
No, I don't. Not always. But what you say is a great relief. You know, I often find myself looking at my friends and wondering.
Well, don't look at me.
Sorry. Then, if you're right, and type and appearance aren't guides, Scotland Yard must base its search on the belief that no crime is perfectly committed. Some clue is always there to be found.
Not quite. I've no doubt the perfect murder can and has been committed. But the only time the criminal can safely relax is after the doctor has certified death from natural causes. The body has been cremated, and all possibility of suspicion removed. Fortunately, most murderers fail to reach such a state of self-assurance without making some tiny slip.
And with crime detection developed to the pitch it is, one tiny slip is enough for Scotland Yard to develop a chain of evidence from which a criminal simply cannot escape.
I've often heard them say, if it hadn't been for that, I'd have got away with it.
Now, such a tiny slip occurred in the case we're going to tell you about. Smoke clings to the hair, we call it. A simple fact to remember. But the tiny slip had brought a criminal to justice. Our scene is the lobby of one of the better-known commercial hotels in the seaside town of Margate, England. The time's a little after 11 o'clock at night. The wife of the hotel manager, Mrs. Harding, is chatting with one of her guests, a commercial traveler named Dickens.
I'm glad we were able to make you comfortable.
Oh, I always look forward to my stay at the Metropole. Not like some hotels I could tell you about.
Well, we always do try and take a personal interest in our guests. Makes it so much pleasanter all round, I think.
You're quite right there, Mrs. Harding. As I was saying to your husband only yesterday, what we need in the world today is more genuine friendliness. If there was more of that, we wouldn't have half the troubles we do.
Well, it costs nothing, does it? A pleasant word and a smile.
Oh, good evening, Mr. Dickens. Good evening to you, Mr. Harding.
Do you know what Mr. Dickens has just been saying, dear? That he always looks forward to his stay at the Metropole.
Well, that's very nice of you, I'm sure. Friendly place. That's what I like about it. And a nice class of people who stay here. Well, we do try and be careful. We've got a good name, and we can afford to pick and choose a bit. That reminds me. How's the old lady who had the fainting fit?
Mrs. Fox, you mean? Oh, she's much better. I went up to see her this afternoon. The doctor says it wasn't anything serious.
Oh, I'm glad to hear it. Poor dear. Well, she's lucky in one thing. That son of hers. I don't know when I've ever seen a young man so devoted.
You may well say that. Never lets her out of his sight if he can help it. I really don't know what she'd do without him. She can hardly walk herself, you know.
Talking about Mr. Fox, a funny thing happened.
Yes?
I happened to meet him about half an hour ago, just as he was coming out of the bar. You know how he is ordinarily. Always ready with a smile and a word or two. Yes, very friendly young fellow. Well, would you believe it? He stared at me, or rather, through me more like, just as if he'd seen a ghost. Then he ran down the passage into the lobby and up the stairs.
Well, that's funny. Not like him at all, that.
You met him outside the bar, you say? Had he been drinking? That's the first thing that came into my mind. Fact is, I hopped into the bar and asked Alice. She said all she'd served him with was a glass of beer. That says a lot for the strength of your beer.
Everybody does funny things sometimes. I don't suppose there's anything in it.
Hello. What's that?
Fire! Fire! Someone was shouting.
Did you hear where he was shouting from? That sounds like upstairs.
Something. Hurry, do something.
Go, carry on. I'm
It
coming.
sounded like Mr. Fox.
There it is. It's on the stairs. Which room is it, Mr. Fox? My mother's room. 66, and I can't get in there. What, the door locked? No. The room's full of smoke, and I couldn't get in. My mother's in there. She'll be suffocated. Ooh, I can smell smoke. This is it. In there. Mother! Mother! Oh, do try and get her out. Here, get out of the way and let me get that door open. Look out for the smoke! Look out!
Oh, good heavens. Look at it.
We've got to get in there. The old lady. You can't get through it. Take it easy, my lamb. We'll have a damn good try. Better let me, Mr. Dickens. No, I've had some experience of this sort of thing during the war. Oh. Help tie this handkerchief over my nose. There you are, that's got it. Now look, I'm going to crawl along the floor. Yes, but the smoke isn't so dense there. Yes, if I'm not out in 2 or 3 minutes, come and get me. Oh, you'll never make it.
But Dickens did make it. Choking, blinded, tortured by the dense clouds of thick, acrid smoke, he battled his way across the room until he came to the bed. Sprawled across it, he found Mrs. Fox, and somehow summoning up reserves of strength and he didn't know he possessed, he managed to drag the heavy body back out of the room into the corridor before finally collapsing. By this time, other guests in the hotel had been aroused, and volunteers from amongst them fought their way through the billowing smoke and put out the flames. A doctor was sent for and every available means used to revive Mrs. Fox, but no spark of life appeared. Word was brought to Sidney Fox that his mother was dead.
My mother. She's gone. There, Mr. Fox. You must try and bear up.
Poor young fellow. He was so devoted to her.
I left her, reading her papers by the fire. I should never have done it. I only went out for a moment before going to bed. She must have left the gas fire on when she went to bed. Something caught fire.
The gas fire was on when I went into the room. I noticed it.
Oh, why did I leave her? Why did I leave her?
Oh, you poor boy. Oh, you poor boy. I don't know what to say to comfort you. It was a cruel thing to happen. But it wasn't your fault. Just a terrible accident.
I came back. I went in to say goodnight. It was all smoke.
Here comes the doctor.
Well, Doctor, you better do something for Mr. Fox. He's taking it very hard.
The smoke was so thick I couldn't get any other to help. My poor mother. I couldn't even get into the room. I couldn't get past the door.
He couldn't get into the room. If he had, he would probably have been overcome. You remember Dickens was a big, powerful man, and he only managed it because he had sufficient experience to tie a handkerchief over his face and keep close down on the floor where the smoke was less thick. If you feel that Fox is to blame for not even trying, all I can assure you is that no one who was present on that tragic occasion felt that he was in any way to blame for acting as he did. Even the coroner, in returning a verdict of accidental death, felt impelled to express his great sympathy with the bereaved son. His sentiments were shared by everybody in the hotel who had observed the devoted care Fox lavished on his crippled mother. But, as you can readily understand, there would be a vast difference between personally witnessing an event of this kind and reading a report that gave nothing more than the cold facts. Mr. William Charles Crocker had only cold facts to deal with. He was a solicitor to the insurance company with which Fox had insured his mother's life. A brief account of the circumstances of Mrs. Fox's death came to him, accompanied by an insurance claim for £3,000 payable to the devoted son, Sidney Harry Fox. Mr. Crocker felt he had a good and sufficient reason to call in the firm's private investigator, an ex-Scotland Yard man, and discuss the matter with him.
I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
What in particular strikes you as fishy about this business, Mr. Crocker?
A good many things. But the chief one is this. See this entry? Fox came here on Monday, the 21st of October, to extend the policies on his mother's death by accident by 2 days. Just 2 days. Until midnight, the 23rd of October. She's discovered dead by an accident on the night of the 23rd of October, 20 minutes before the policies expire.
In that case, if he did Doreen, all I can say is that he's a fool, is one of the names.
Yes, but that's not all. I've been looking into Mrs. Fox's file pretty carefully. I'll show you one or two other things that might be well worth thinking over.
Mr. Crocker had no difficulty in convincing the investigator that it would be well worthwhile to pay a visit to Market. That he was justified was proved a few days later when he had a cryptically worded telegram from the seaside resort reading, "Bathing good, but water very muddy." He might have added, "and fishy," but it shows even an ex-policeman may have a sense of humor. Mr. Crocker's immediate move was to get in touch with Chief Inspector Hambrook of Scotland Yard.
When did Fox take off this policy on his mother's life, Mr. Crocker?
In May this year, Inspector. There's the file. Interesting, isn't it? A daily policy on no fewer than 167 days out of a possible total of 176.
In other words, not a regular life insurance policy, just the kind that's normally sold to people at railway stations and on board ship to cover them during the trip.
That's it.
No medical examination required?
No, just sign on the dotted line.
Weren't you suspicious when he kept on having the policy renewed day after day?
Not particularly. Insurance companies often have to deal with eccentric customers of this kind. But there's a more interesting point. Fox asked all kinds of questions about the correct definition of the clause referring to accidental death.
Oh, did he, by Jove?
Wanted to know, for instance, if his mother was drowned in her bath. Would that be an accident within the meaning of the policy? What was the position if she was poisoned by food served in a restaurant?
Oh, evidently wanted to make sure of his ground.
And remember, on top of everything else, Mrs. Fox was pronounced dead only 20 minutes before the policy was due to expire.
Yes. Now I've got some information for you. I've had dealings with Sidney Fox before. Made a copy of his record before coming along here. Take a look at it. Starts when he was 11 or 12. Defrauded a greengrocer at Brighton. Matter put into the hands of the police and Sidney was burnt.
It doesn't seem to have made much of an impression on him.
No. A couple of years later, he had to do 3 months hard labor. A year later, 8 months of forgery. A year later, 6 months of victimizing London stores. 2 years more, and then 12 months for obtaining credit from a London hotel by fraud. Out of prison a year, then 12 months hard labor for larceny and fraud. Stays out of trouble for 3 years, and then back to prison for 15 months for stealing jewelry.
Well, I'm blowed. He's a bad egg.
He is indeed.
Well, our investigator down at Margate says that in the beginning, Fox had everybody's sympathy.
Well, it just shows you how easily people are taken in, huh? Yes, I think a visit to the seaside is clearly indicated for me.
I thought you'd feel that way about it.
Meantime, Mr. Harding, the manager of the Metropole Hotel, you remember, and his wife had done a lot of careful thinking. They talked things over, with the result that their opinion of Mr. Sidney Fox had changed completely. When Chief Inspector Hambrook arrived in Margate and got in touch with the Chief Constable, he was amazed to find that as a result of a warrant sworn out by Mr. Harding, Fox was already under arrest. Sidney Fox, the young man who at first had aroused everybody's sympathy as a devoted son suffering a terrible bereavement, has been unmasked as a petty criminal. And, if I may say so, an extremely foolish one at that. To make a claim on a daily policy 20 minutes before it expired and hope to escape suspicion seems sheer lunacy to me. Don't you think so, Hoskins?
But that didn't hang him.
No, the tiny slip, which might have been made by a far more intelligent man, did that. Now, as I told you, Fox was under arrest when Inspector Hambrook arrived at Margate. And he immediately called a conference of Harding, the hotel manager, his wife, and Chief Constable.
I'd better explain how I come into the picture, Inspector. You see, just after the inquest, I had a call at my headquarters from a landlady who had recently let rooms to Mrs. Fox and her son.
Well, here in Margate, huh?
That's right. She couldn't understand how they could afford to take accommodation at a place like the Metropole when they hadn't been able to pay her bill.
Oh, that was careless of them.
Hadn't paid her a penny piece.
But Fox paid your bill, Mr. Harding?
No, he hasn't.
Matter of fact, that's why he's in jail.
Although at first, my husband and I didn't like to press about the money he owed us because of what he'd been through.
No, it didn't seem right. Particularly when he tells us that story about all his money being lost in the fire. Oh, that was a neat one.
Oh, he's plausible, all right. Said his money was in his mother's purse, which got burnt. Well, I looked at that purse. I've got it back at the station. You can see it for yourself. It's burnt on the outside, all right, but the inside's intact.
Well, caught him out on that one, all right. But still, it wasn't because of the money we agreed to have him arrested.
No, it wasn't because of the money. It was another thing. You see, while the doctor was trying to revive Mrs. Fox, the young man was with me, and I was doing my best to try and calm him. Oh, he's in a terrible state.
Real or pretended?
Oh, seemed real enough at the time. And you know how it is when you try to, well, comfort a person. I found myself stroking his hair. Very big bushy hair he has. Sometime later, I smelled smoke on my hand.
I was there when she found out about it. It was quite strong.
We just looked at each other and we could feel the same awful suspicion growing in each of our minds.
I don't quite understand why it should impress you like that. Ah, probably you didn't realize that smoke clings to the hair.
Well, but that's just it. He hadn't been into the room.
Oh?
How do you know?
He said so in front of all of us. Not once, but several times.
Well, he was quite clear about it. Said he opened the door, saw the smoke, closed the door, and ran for help.
The door was closed when we got there.
While Mr. Dickens was rescuing Mrs. Fox, the son was with me on the opposite side of the corridor.
I've got a good head of hair, and for the short time it took to get the old lady out of there, I was in the smoke much more than he was. But the smell of it wasn't in my hair as thick as that, was it, dear?
No, it certainly was not.
Oh, I see now. It can only mean one thing. Young Fox must have been in that smoke-filled room for some considerable time before he came running out calling for help.
It seemed to me it would be best to put Mr. Fox where I could lay my hands on him at any time. So that's how it came about. At my request, Mr. Harding took out a warrant against him for obtaining food and accommodation under false pretenses.
Oh, good work. Now, first of all, I'd like to have a look at that room in which Mrs. Fox met with her unfortunate accident. If it was an accident.
Yes, well, that's the trouble.
Why? Everything's been left as it was, isn't it?
I'm afraid not, Inspector. 2 or 3 of the guests helped me to get the damaged stuff out.
All of it?
Well, there's only the chair and the carpet and most of the clothing that had been hung on the chair. We took it down the yard at the back of the hotel. Simply couldn't leave it inside the place.
Oh, it was still smoldering.
I see. Yeah, of course. No, you couldn't. Yes. Well, what happened to all those bits and pieces?
Well, they sent the dustman round next day and took it away.
It is all sent to the corporation rubbish heap.
We've got to get that room back into as nearly as possible the same state that it was immediately after the fire. What about that rubbish, sir? Can it be traced?
Well, we can try. It's been some time now. We don't let that stuff lie around long, you know.
I'm going to find it if we have to upturn every rubbish dump in the town and search it from top to bottom.
The rubbish was traced to a dump, which was to form part of the foundation of a new promenade road from Margate to the neighboring town of Westcott. I say, you never know what you're stepping on, do you? Tons of other rubbish had already been deposited along with it. There was no indication in what spot the debris from Mrs. Fox's room had been buried. To locate it seemed obviously a hopeless task. To me, the incredible thing is that it was found. Yes, nearly everything was recovered and replaced in Mrs. Fox's room until it closely resembled the scene on the night of the fatal fire. The armchair in which her son said the old lady had sat reading before she hobbled to bed was back in its original position upon a large patch of the burnt, smoked, blackened carpet. The pitiful remnants of her clothing, even a large pile of charred newspapers, were back in place.
One thing has been proved beyond a doubt. A fact that justifies all the work we've undertaken. That fire began underneath the armchair. There's no possible way it could have spread from the gas fire, as was supposed, without charring the carpet and the floorboards in between.
Which would have been the case if the paper the old lady had dropped had been the source of the blaze.
Right, sir. Point 2. It has been proved that paper alone could not have set fire to the chair and the carpet. And the volumes of dense oily smoke all the witnesses state filled this room could not have been caused unless some inflammable substance had been added to the blaze. We now know that Fox was in the habit of keeping a bottle of petrol with which to clean the one suit he possessed.
To sum up, it was no accident.
I believe we can provide even further proof of that.
Do?
Yes. I don't believe the old lady was breathing before the fire started.
What?
She was already dead. There's only one way to find out for sure.
A post-mortem, eh?
Yes.
All right. I'll arrange for it.
I regret having to do this. But if she died as a result of smoke suffocation, there'll be soot in her breathing organs and traceable quantities of carbon monoxide in the blood.
And so the coffin was lifted from its resting place and carried to the mortuary, where the pathologists made their examination.
Not a sign of soot or any other effects of smoke. Nor is there any trace of carbon monoxide in the blood.
Oh, then Mrs. Fox was definitely dead before the fire started?
No, I can't go as far as that. What I can state definitely is that before the smoke reached her, she had ceased breathing.
Yeah, there's a point there. In other words, it's remotely possible that she could have died of, say, heart failure from the shock of seeing that her room was on fire.
Not impossible, but extremely unlikely. Furthermore, there are bruises on the larynx and the tongue.
What? You mean strangulation?
Looks like it. I'm pretty sure the marks on her tongue were caused by her false teeth. By the way, where are they?
Well, haven't you got them?
No, I imagined they were among your exhibits.
Yeah. But after what you've told me, I'll make it my business to recover them.
The inspector hurried back to the hotel. Neither the manager nor his wife knew anything about the missing set of false teeth, but they immediately started inquiries among the staff. The inspector and chief constable waited impatiently.
Almost anything might have happened to them. Oh, it's always the same when you get started on a case late. Vital evidence gets scattered and as often as not, never recovered.
Good news, Inspector. They've been found.
They have, Mrs. Harding?
Yes, one of the maids who helped clear up Mrs. Fox's room found them on the wash basin.
On the wash basin? Oh, wait a minute. Is she sure of that?
Absolutely. Not knowing what to do with them, she put them away in a cupboard, meaning to ask me. But although she's a very reliable girl, she forgot.
Can we depend on her testimony?
Oh, I'm sure of it. And she's quite definite. They were on that wash basin immediately after the fire.
Now, that clinches my case. How could a woman who could barely walk unaided go across the room and put her false teeth on the wash basin when the marks on her tongue prove that she was wearing them at the time of her death?
Couldn't be done.
No, sir. So you can make out another warrant for our friend, Mr. Fox. This time, the charge is murder.
And so Sidney Fox was brought up for trial. Trial for his life. You remember the bruises on the throat mentioned by the pathologist. Medical men all over the country skilled in forensic medicine gave their interpretations of the cause for those bruises. And as so often happens, hardly any two of them agreed. Fox had his own alibi for the bruises. A few days before the fire, he had thoughtfully taken occasion to tell some of the hotel staff about what he airily described as a sham fight he'd had with his mother. Apparently, he hoped that this childish subterfuge might counter any suspicions the bruises would arouse if they were discovered after his mother's death. What credulous fools criminals must think the rest of us are. But in spite of Fox's opinion of his own cleverness, the passage in the trial most damaging to his chance of acquittal came when he was caught in a verbal trap by the Attorney General who was conducting the cross-examination for the prosecution.
Now, Fox, we come to the moment when you opened the door to your mother's room and discovered the fire. I want you to be very careful about this. Was it full of smoke when you opened the door?
So thick that I couldn't possibly have gone in there without suffocating. I knew I couldn't live in there.
So you closed the door and immediately ran for help.
That's exactly what I did.
So you knew your mother was already dead?
No. No. How could I know that?
You closed the door.
I didn't want the smoke to spread through the hotel.
But if you didn't know your mother was already dead, closing that door meant you condemned her to certain death by suffocation. Why, you ran for help.
I went for help to get her out.
You overlooked the fact that the natural thing to do would be to fling wide the door so that the smoke would escape. You overlooked that, didn't you?
That wasn't it. No.
Fox, you closed that door.
I don't know that I did close it. I wasn't thinking when I said that.
Both Mr. Harding and Mr. Dickens have testified that the door was closed when you returned them. No one was there to close it if you didn't. Closing the door shows you knew the smoke could no longer hurt your mother. No, you knew your mother would never breathe again, didn't you?
You trapped me into this. It's a trap. I can think of an explanation if I'm given time.
But the sands of time had almost run out for Sidney Fox. No words uttered by a man on trial for his life could have acknowledged his guilt more clearly. Sidney Fox paid the extreme penalty for the murder of his mother. To me, the most interesting character in the case is the victim, Mrs. Fox. What sort of a woman was she? Or rather, what sort of a mother was she? Aren't we rather inclined to condemn a poor, wretched creature like her son and not look for the cause?
My dear Clive,
If we started doing that, how would the law work? You're right, though. Mrs. Fox was a weak, lazy woman and shut her eyes to faults she must have seen in her son. Worse than that, when he was a kid, she did her best to spoil him.
Spoil him? My goodness. He certainly succeeded in that, all right. Yes, he sounds like a mother's boy, going to Mrs. Harding for comfort and letting her stroke his hair. You know, that's rather ironic. The tiny slip that brought his downfall.
There's no doubt of that. If the Harding suspicions had not been aroused, Fox would have been free to escape. And with the delay, the debris from the room of the murder would have been buried beyond recovery.
So it comes about that in Scotland Yard's grim black museum, there is no memento of this famous case. For how can you capture a thing so ephemeral, although in this case so deadly, as the smell of smoke clinging to a kindly woman's hand?
How do you do? This is Clive Brooke. Have you ever thought how often criminal trials hinge on the question of identification? The more one reflects on this point, the more one marvels at the really extraordinary powers of observation and memory that the most unlikely people seem to possess. For instance, a murder has been committed, and a passerby has seen a man hurry away from the scene. It's probably nighttime, and he's had no more than a glimpse of somebody under a street lamp. Yet he's able to say quite positively that he was tall and thin, in his middle 50s, with a mottled complexion, a broken nose, and a mole under his left eye. Moreover, he's able to describe his dress, right down to his boots. Not only does he tell the police this, but he swears it again in court. Now, this is very good if it helps to send a guilty man to the gallows, but even with the best and most honest intention, anyone's liable to make a mistake, and a mistake of that kind may have tragic results. Let me tell you of such a case, and how only the merest fluke saved a grave miscarriage of justice. For many years, Jean Milne, a spinster, had been a well-known figure in the district of Broughty Ferry, Dundee. The sole heiress of her brother, a wealthy tobacco manufacturer, she had, since his death 9 years before, lived alone in the family home, Elm Grove House, a 14-roomed mansion standing in about 2 acres of thickly treed ground. Now, despite her solitude and her advancing years, she was a woman with a zest for life. Her clothes were gay, if perhaps a trifle girlish for a woman of 65, and at least twice a year it was her habit to spend 2 or 3 months in London. Consequently, when in late October 1912, neighbors failed to see her about and noted that Elm Grove House was locked and apparently deserted, they merely concluded she'd gone off for another jaunt to the city. But this explanation didn't altogether satisfy the local postman. By November the 2nd, when more than a fortnight's mail had accumulated in Miss Mill's letterbox, he thought it was time the police were informed. The local sergeant, I regret to say, did not at first take his report very seriously.
Oh, man, what are you worrying about? Suppose she's not been home for a fortnight. You ought to know her ladyship's habits by now. She's gone gadding off again, I'll be bound.
Well, that's what I'm trying to tell you. Every time she's gone off before, she's let me know and left a forward in the drift.
Maybe she forgot this time or left in too much of a hurry to see you.
Ah, but if she had, don't you think she'd have written to the post office?
Well, perhaps it's just...
And I'll tell you something else, Sergeant. When she's gone away afore, she's always had a word to Constable Bruce on the beat so you keep an eye to the empty house.
And she's not done that this time?
No, she's not. And it's my opinion it's your duty to make a few inquiries. Living in that big house all by herself, the woman might be ill or dead for all we care.
Well, I'll talk to the constable when he comes in and we'll see what's to be done.
Next morning, the 2 policemen went to the house. All the doors and windows were locked. There was no sign of life. For 5 minutes or more, they rang the bell and thumped on the front door. There was no response.
All right. That's enough. It's obvious there's no one there.
What are we going to do now, Sergeant?
We'll have to force an entry, I suppose. Here, I'll break this window.
Give me a leg up, will you, Sergeant?
There you are.
Thanks. I'm right to know. Shan't be a minute. There we are.
As easy as falling off a log. Uh-huh. Smells sort of musty, doesn't it? Are you there, Miss Milne? Is anyone at home? It's plain the place is empty. Shall we look around, Sergeant? Aye. Come on. Through this hole and up. Why, what is it? Good God! It's Miss Milne. Aye, all that's left of her, you mean? Look at those wounds about the head and all the blood stains. And the furniture upset, and that poker... It's murder. Aye, and by the look of things, it's happened a long time since. What do you suppose we should do? Don't touch a thing. This is no job for us, lad. You stay here and keep guard, and I'll go back to the station and telephone Glasgow.
Glasgow's prompt answer was to send Detective Lieutenant Trench to Broughty Ferry. By the way, 3 years earlier, Trench had become famous for his handling of the Oscar Slater case, and he was recognized as the most capable detective in Scotland. His first task was to establish the approximate date of the crime.
When would you estimate death took place, Doctor?
It's hard to be precise, but I should say about 3 weeks ago.
It's now November the 3rd. That would take us back to, let's see, about October 13th, eh?
That's right.
How does that tally with your inquiry, Sergeant?
Well, sir, the earliest letter in the mailbox was dated October the 14th. Miss Milne was definitely seen alive at a home mission meeting in Dundee on October the 15th. But there was no response when Mr. Kinnear, he's an elder in St. Andrew's Church, sir, called here at the house to see her the following day.
It seems reasonable to presume she was killed either on the evening of the 15th or the morning of the 16th.
Aye, that would seem to be right enough, sir.
Good. I wanted to send some of your men out. They're to interview everyone in the neighborhood and find out if anyone saw Miss Milne or anyone else about the house during that period.
Yes, sir. I'll attend to that at once, sir.
Any theories, Lieutenant?
It's a little early for that, I'm afraid. However, there are a few obvious points that suggest it was a man with whom Miss Milne was on friendly terms.
How do you work that out?
Well, in the first place, the dining room was set for high tea for 2.
That rather suggests the evening of the 15th as the time, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. In the second place, although I understand she was a teetotaler herself, Miss Milne, on the morning of the 15th, had her grocer deliver a bottle of whiskey to the house. When she gave the order, she explained she was expecting a gentleman friend of tea.
She may only have said that, of course. She was a little inclined to romanticize, you know.
Yes, even so. In the third place, since no entry to the house was forced, we must presume she let the murderer in through the front door. And he duly let himself out the same way. In the fourth place, no money or jewelry appears to have been stolen, which rules out the theft motive. And finally, I found this in the grate.
A half-smoked cigar. Well, I'm blessed.
Why does that surprise you so much?
You didn't know, Miss Milne, of course. But whatever she did in London, I can tell you she led a life of the strictest propriety here at home.
Oh, my dear fellow, you're not suggesting there's anything improper in a woman of 65 entertaining a man to tea, are you?
Myself, no. But you know how people talk in these small communities. And in any case, Miss Milne was practically a hermit. Weeks often went by without her having a single caller. As far as I'm aware, she had no friends in the district at all. Real friends, I mean. Male or female.
Perhaps her caller on this occasion didn't live in the district. Perhaps he was someone she'd met in London.
That could be so, of course. Well, Lieutenant, you've got the problem before you. I wish you luck.
Thanks. I've an idea I'm going to need it before this case is over.
There was precious little else in the way of clues to reward the painstaking Trench. There were no identifiable fingerprints discovered in the house, nor even on the murder weapon itself, the poker that had been found by Miss Milne's body. Her private papers yielded nothing that might give a lead, except one or two rather coy references to a dashing but anonymous American she had met in London, and most of the unclaimed mail in the box was either business correspondence or begging letters. The few of her male acquaintances at Broughty Ferry who might conceivably have visited her for tea were able to establish their movements satisfactorily, and in any case, most of them were connected with the church, and therefore hardly likely to drink whiskey and smoke cigars. It wasn't until the police offered a reward of £100 that things really started to happen. The first to come forward was one Margaret Campbell.
You say, Miss Campbell, you're a maid employed in the house next door to Miss Milne's.
Aye, that's right, sir.
And from the upper windows, you can see part of the grounds of Elm Grove House.
Aye.
And in fact, on October the 15th or 16th, did you see anyone or anything there?
Not in those days, sir. But a few days earlier, round about the 12th it would be, I happened to look out. I saw a gentleman walking in the garden.
Did you take particular note of him?
Aye, sir, I did. It was so unusual to see anyone but Miss Milne, the gardener, you understand.
Quite. Could you describe him, do you think?
Well, he was a tall, handsome man of about 40, I would say. He had round features and fair hair, and he was wearing a dark suit, sir.
Was he clean-shaven?
Oh, that I couldn't say, sir. I was looking down on him, you understand.
Yes, I see. Did you mention to anyone else that you'd seen him?
Aye, sir. When I went downstairs, I told mistress.
You didn't see this man again?
No, sir.
Oh, thank you very much. I'll get you to put what you've told me into the form of a statement, if you don't mind.
So far, so good. Of course, the fact that this man had been seen there 3 days before the murder didn't necessarily implicate him in it. Still, it was a start, and more was to follow. The next to volunteer information was John Dunn, a garbage collector.
I was at work about 4:30 in the morning on October the 16th in Grove Road when I seen a man come out the small door of the main entrance gate at Elm Grove.
Oh? What did he do?
He stopped for a moment and looked up and down the road. Then when he saw me and realized I'd seen him, he walked off briskly and disappeared round the bend in the road.
Get a good look at him?
Aye, good enough. It was near a dark morning, and he walked right under a gas lamp. I'd say he was between 30 and 40. Tall and well-built with a sort of a pale face and a fair moustache. He wore a bowler hat and a dark overcoat.
Did you recognize him again if you saw him?
Ah, easy. I think I would.
Thank you, Mr. Don. That'll do.
It seemed the search was narrowing, but more was to follow. Much more. Next to volunteer a sight of the mysterious stranger was John Wood, who had worked occasionally for the murdered woman as a gardener.
All right, Mr. Wood. Let's hear what you have to say.
Well, sir, I used to understand Miss Milne more than most people, as you might say, and she used to talk to me and tell me things she'd never owned to others.
Yes, go on.
Last August, when she returned from London, she told me she'd been staying at a hotel in the Strand, and she'd met a foreign gentleman there, a tea planter, I think it was.
Did you say what nationality he was?
A German, I think it was, sir, though I'd not be sure.
Might it have been an American?
Aye, it might have been. I didn't pay much heed at the time. Well, on the 19th of September, I know the date because I've got it in the little book where I keep my note of my wages. I was in the house doing odd jobs for Miss Milne when the doorbell rang. I answered it, and there was a gentleman, sir, who said to me, "Is Miss Milne in?"
Did you notice his accent?
It was foreign, sir, that's all I can say. So I told Miss Milne, and she skipped along the passageway just like a lassie to welcome him.
Do you remember what you said?
Something like, "You've come, I knew you would." Then she gave me 2 shillings and packed me off home.
What did this man look like?
He was about 40, I should say. Maybe 5'9", a well-made man.
Dark or fair?
Fair, with a wee fair moustache and a fresh face.
Well dressed?
Aye, morning coat and dark trousers. A real gent, as you might say.
And his voice? Apart from the accent, I mean, was it deep or pitched high?
It was deep, sir, and sort of guttural, I suppose you'd call it. Of course, I'm not saying it's the man who murdered Miss Milne. Still, I thought you should know.
Yes, you did quite the right thing, Mr. Wood. Thank you very much.
Then there was a taxi driver, Frederick Ewing, who remembered early on the morning of October the 15th taking a fare from the South train to Broughty Ferry in the vicinity of Elm Grove House.
He was a smartly dressed man, well built. Between 35 and 40, I'd say. Pale complexion, fair moustache. I didn't notice anything particular about his accent. I'd have said he was English, sinister-looking sort of fellow. I was glad to get rid of him, I can tell you.
Hard on the taxi driver's heels came 2 sisters named McIntosh. On October the 7th, they said they'd been visiting a relative in Grove Road, and as they were passing Elm Grove about 8:30 p.m., they were surprised, knowing Miss Milne's reclusive habits, to see a man emerging from the front gate. Their description of him?
He was a tallish, well-built man in early middle age, fair-haired, with a small moustache and a rather round, ruddy face. He looked as though he might be a foreigner. Judging by his clothes and general manner, he was certainly a gentleman.
So many descriptions that tallied so exactly couldn't possibly be put down to coincidence. Where the case had seemed hopeless at the beginning, the prospects of a solution now appeared extremely bright. Let him once lay hands on the guilty man, Trench thought, and he'd had no difficulty about positive identification. So he circulated to every police station in Great Britain a full description of the murdered woman's mysterious friend, and then sat back and waited for results. They came quickly and dramatically, as you shall hear.
While in Dundee, investigations into the murder of Jean Mill were proceeding, in Maidstone jail, serving a short sentence for having obtained a meal at a hotel without the means to pay for it, was a man who had given his name as Charles Warner, and his address as 210 Wilton Avenue, Toronto, Canada. And to Maidstone jail, while he was still a guest there, came a copy of the circular from Detective Lieutenant Trench, describing in detail the appearance of the man whom he believed to be Miss Mill's murderer.
Listen to this, Bill. Age about 40, height about 5 feet 9, weight 11 to 12 stone. Fair hair, round face, ruddy complexion, fair moustache, deep voice, well-dressed of gentlemanly aspect. Maybe German or American.
American? You don't think it could be that fellow Warner, do you?
That's just what I was wondering. He answers his description all right.
Of course, you couldn't say he was exactly well-dressed when we brought him in.
It might have been disguised, you know.
Exactly. And anyway, old clothes or no, there's no mistaking from the way he speaks and goes on generally. He's a gentleman, all right.
Anyone with half an eye could spot that. What do you reckon we ought to do, Bill?
Report it to the governor, of course. Let him worry about it from now on.
The governor of the jail acted promptly. Within an hour, photographs of Warner were taken, and the same evening they were mailed to Trench in Dundee. In due course, they were shown to the various witnesses. One and all agreed Warner was the man they had seen. But Trench was cautious and thorough. Determined to make sure before he took positive action, he arranged for 5 of his witnesses to travel down by train to Maidstone. They were Margaret Campbell, the maid, John Donn, the garbage collector, John Wood, the gardener, and the 2 Mrs. McIntosh. There the governor took them separately into an exercise yard at the jail, where 11 men, including Warner, were standing in line. First came Margaret Campbell.
Now, Miss Campbell, I want you to look carefully at these 11 men, and I want you to tell me if you recognize any one of them as the man you saw in Miss Mill's garden.
Aye, sir, I'll do my best. Well, it's not the tall one in the line. Nor again the one next to him, sir. Nor yet the next. It's awful harsh when they've all got their hats on, sir. The man I saw was bareheaded.
Well, we'll soon fix that. Take your hats off, please. Well, young lady, does that help you?
Aye, sir. I know I'm right enough now. It's this one.
You're quite sure of that?
Well, his hair's a shade greyer than I'd thought it was, but I can't forget his eyes.
Thank you. That's all I want to know. Then John Donn, please.
And so it went on. One by one, the witnesses came into the yard, inspected the lineup, and identified Charles Warner as the man they had seen at Elm Grove House. Warner had begun by treating the proceedings as rather a joke, never suspecting they were directed against him. But as one after another picked him out, he began to lose his composure. And finally, when the last of the witnesses, one of the Mrs. McIntosh, pointed to him, he could restrain himself no longer.
It's not fair. I protest. I'm the victim of a conspiracy.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, they must be telling each other where I stand in the line.
That's not true. No one's told me anything.
They must have. The whole thing's a put-up job. It's a farce. All the others made me take my hat off. Don't you want me to as well?
No, I don't. I know you quite well without that. I'm perfectly satisfied you're the man.
That's fine. That's swell. What am I supposed to have done? What am I being framed for?
I advise you to moderate your language, my man. You're not being framed, as you put it, for anything. We don't do things like that in this country.
Oh, no?
No. And as to the rest of it, you'll know in due course. All right. The parade's over.
Charles Warner was not left wondering for long. Next morning, his 14 days' imprisonment ended, and at the prison gates, as he was about to leave, technically at least a free man, a plainclothes policeman stepped forward and laid a hand on his arm. It was Detective Lieutenant Trench.
Charles Warner?
Sure, that's me.
I've a warrant for your arrest.
Well, for Pete's sake, what am I supposed to have done?
You're charged with that on or about the 15th of October at Broadway Ferry, Dundee, you did feloniously murder one Jean Mill.
You're crazy. I've never been in Dundee in my life, and I've never even heard of this Dame Mill, or whatever her name is.
You've no need to make a statement now. It's my duty to warn you that anything you say may be taken down in writing and used in evidence.
Okay, I get it. But someone's going to be sorry for this in a few days. I'm warning you right now. I'm warning you.
During the long train journey on the way up to Dundee, Trench had a good acquainted with his prisoner and to form some opinion of his general character.
He couldn't help being impressed by Warner's straightforwardness and frankness. Still, as Trench well knew, these are characteristics common to many murderers. So he allowed the fact unduly to influence him. Although under no obligation to do so, Warner gave a full account of his recent movements.
You say you've been on this side of the world for about 4 months, Warner.
Sure, that's right.
What brought you here in the first place? Did you have some prospect of a position?
No, I just got kind of sick of staying around at home in Toronto, so I thought I'd like to have a look at Europe.
Just a holiday visit, eh?
Yeah, I had a few dollars of my own, and my brother offered to stake me when that ran out. So it seemed like too good a chance to miss.
And what have your movements been since you came here?
Well, first I landed up at Le Havre. Then I went to Paris and spent 6 or 8 weeks there.
When did you first come to England?
Round about the first week in September.
Are you sure you weren't here in August, staying at the Strand Palace Hotel in London?
Sure, I'm sure.
Where did you stay in London?
Oh, some little joint in Bayswater. I forget the name.
And after that?
Well, things got a bit tough. My money ran out, you see.
How about the allowance your brother was going to send you?
He died in the meantime, so I couldn't count on anything from there.
I see. So what did you do?
Well, I heard some talk of jobs that were going in Liverpool, so I went up there. I stayed in a boarding house at Seacombe. But there was nothing doing in the way of work, so I stayed away on a ship and had a look at Holland and Belgium.
When was this?
Around about the middle of October, I guess.
And what cities were you in?
Amsterdam, mainly, and Brussels and Antwerp.
What were you doing? How did you manage to live without money?
Oh, I picked up a few pence here and there doing odd jobs. Most of the time, I slept in parks.
And when did you return to England?
Around about the end of October. I wouldn't be sure of the date. Then I figured it was time I stopped hoboing around and went home to Canada. I thought if I walked south, I might pick up another ship and work my way home as a stoker or something.
Instead of which you finished up in Maidstone jail, eh?
Sure. When I was passing through Tonbridge, I thought I might be able to bluff my way to a free meal, but I thought wrong. And there you have it, Lieutenant. The full history of Charles Warner. You can check on it if you don't believe me.
But that was not the trouble. It seemed a simple and plain enough story, and yet it was shot through and through with gaps. There were whole days during Warner's stay in Liverpool, for instance, that could not be accounted for. Days on which he might easily have gone north to Dundee. There was a whole period of his second visit to the continent. When Trench reported progress back to his chief in Glasgow, he was plainly worried about the whole affair.
I don't know, sir. It's just about got me bamboozled.
What's the trouble, Trench?
Well, sir, I've always prided myself on my ability to read a man's character. In the ordinary course of things, I'd be prepared to stake a month's pay Warner isn't a murderer.
And yet,
sir, there are those gaps in his story. He may be telling the truth, and he may not. And there's no means of finding out either way.
And, of course, the evidence of identification.
Yes. You might expect one person to make an honest mistake, but 5? Well, I mean, you can't ignore overwhelming evidence like that.
Well, there are people who were supposed to have seen this mysterious stranger in the neighborhood of Broughty Ferry.
Oh, any amount of them. There was a taxi driver, for instance, who took a fare to Grove Road on the morning of the murder. There were some children who say they saw a man coming out of Miss Milne's house. There was a barber who says he shaved a strange man. There were 2 ladies who claimed to have seen Miss Milne with a man in London. And there was a post office clerk who declares a man called in asking his way to Elm Grove House. There was a workman travelling on the car from Broughty Ferry to Dundee on the morning after the murder, who reported he'd seen another passenger behaving in a suspicious manner. In fact, if Warner is the man we're looking for, he's managed to get himself seen by almost every person.
Why don't you call all these witnesses in and see if they can identify him in a lineup?
Do you think it'll prove anything, sir?
It might. You never know.
All right, sir. I'll do it.
And so on November the 29th, Warner was paraded among other men before no less than 22 fresh witnesses. We don't know the exact figures, but we do know that at least half of them positively identified him as a man they had seen. By now, the accused man was becoming desperate.
I tell you they're mistaken, every one of them. You've got to believe me, Lieutenant.
You're arguing against a great weight of numbers, you know, Warner.
Maybe so, but they're mixing me up with some other guy.
You're double, eh?
Well, why not? Things like that do happen, don't they?
Yes, on rare occasions.
Couldn't this be one of them? Look, bring me a stack of Bibles and I'll swear to you on the whole lot of them that I'm not guilty of this crime. I've never murdered anyone in my life. Until you brought me here, I'd never been north of Liverpool in my life. And I've never clapped eyes on Jean Milne in my life. You ought to know when a guy's telling the truth. Can't you see I'm not lying?
I don't know. I don't know what to think. You say you were in Antwerp the day Miss Milne was killed. If only you could prove that, you'd be clear.
But how can I prove it? I've already told I was broke, scrounging a few odd sous here and there and sleeping in the park.
Sure, there must be Someone you spoke to that day. Something you did that could be checked on. Something to prove your story. Think, man. Think.
Oh, I thought I'm almost crazy. But till there's nothing, not a thing.
Well, I'm afraid there's nothing I can do to help you. If you are innocent, Warner, you've got yourself in a most incredibly tight corner.
You're telling me.
5 weeks passed with Warner still in jail. Then, on the 3rd of January 1913, Penn came to him with news.
I'm sorry, Warner, but the Procurator Fiscal of Dundee has completed his case against you.
What's that mean?
It means you're to stand your trial tomorrow week.
Oh. I suppose they've got quite a swag of evidence against me.
I understand something like 100 witnesses are to be called.
Their word against mine. I don't suppose I'll have a show.
Frankly, I don't think so. Unless you can find some way between now and then of proving you were in Antwerp on October the 15th.
What's the good? We've been over that again and again.
Well, if you do think of anything, some person you might have talked to, some documentary evidence, a piece of paper, for instance.
Wait a minute.
What is it?
A piece of paper. That's it. I think I got it. When I came in here, the police took an old wallet from me. Where is it now?
Well, they're holding it for you, I dare say.
Would I have a chance of getting it, do you think?
Of course. In fact, I'll go out to the charge room now and collect it myself, if you like.
Within 5 minutes, the wallet, containing a miscellaneous collection of papers, was in Warner's hands. He sorted through it with feverish haste, his hands trembling with excitement, his eyes gleaming with a new hope. And then, at last...
Here it is! I know I've kept it!
Oh, what is it?
Look for yourself. On the 15th of October, I was so dead broke, I pawned my waistcoat in Antwerp for a franc. This is the ticket, and it's got the date on it.
You're right. I'll be back in a couple of days.
Hey, where are you going with that ticket?
To Antwerp, of course, to check your story. And redeem your waistcoat.
3 days later, Trench returned to Edinburgh with a perfect alibi, wrapped in a brown paper parcel. That same evening, the Procurator Fiscal received a telegram from the Scottish Crown Office. In regard to Charles Warner, charged with murder, Crown Counsel have considered precognitions and decided evidence insufficient. Please liberate. And so ended the ordeal by identification of Charles Warner, an innocent man against whom more than a dozen honest witnesses were prepared to swear evidence that would have sent him to his death. And who did kill Jean Mills? That was never resolved, and her case remains today and is likely to remain in the file of unsolved crime. Well, that's all for now, but I'll be back again soon to tell you some more of the secrets of Scotland Yard. Meanwhile, this is Clive Brooks saying goodbye and pleasant dreams.
The Mutual Broadcasting System presents The Secrets of Scotland Yard with your host and narrator, Clive Brooks.
How do you do? This is Clive Brooks. How good are your nerves? Are you calm, cool, and collected? Or are you apt to go to pieces in a crisis? Can you face a tricky situation serenely and come out of it unscathed? Or do you panic and get yourself into more and deeper trouble? Then you'll appreciate the behavior of Ronald Vivian Light. Ronald Light was an ex-officer of the British Army who had served his country honorably during the 1914-18 war. He had suffered from shell shock during the last full-scale German attack, and when he was released from the Army, his nerves were in a pretty bad state. In 1919, he was an assistant master in mathematics at a school in Cheltenham, England. Our story begins on July the 5th of that year, a Saturday. Light had been out for a bicycle ride in the country. It was evening now, and he was returning to his home in Leicester, where he lived with his mother. He was a well-dressed, not unattractive man with intelligent, clear-cut features. He rode along at a leisurely pace and whistled as he went.
I say, I'm sorry to bother you.
Having some trouble?
Oh, yes, it's this terrible old bike of mine. The front wheel's always coming loose. I wonder, have you got a spanner in your toolkit?
Yeah, I think so. Just a second, I'll see.
Oh, thanks awfully.
Now then, what needs doing?
Oh, don't you bother. I'm used to it. Can fix it in a moment.
No, I insist. It's this bolt here, isn't it?
Yes. Well, it's terribly kind of you, I'm sure.
No trouble at all. I'm always glad to be able to oblige a lady, and a very attractive lady in this case, if I may say so.
Oh, you needn't do it up any tighter. Yes, that's fine. Well, thank you very much.
Well, let's go along together, shall we? I'm heading to Leicester.
All right. I have to leave you at Gorby. It's the next village.
Is that where you live?
No, but I'm dropping into my uncle's house to pick up some things. It's ever such a nice little cottage in Gorby.
Your front wheel steady now?
Oh, yes, you made it nice and tight.
I had a flat tire this afternoon. Got it fixed in Leicester.
Oh, you should have come to me. I work in a tire factory.
Oh, do you now? Well, I certainly would have come to you if I'd only met you before.
Their conversation went along in this strain until they reached the house of Bella Wright's uncle.
Well, this is where I stop off. Isn't it a lovely cottage?
Utterly charming. Will you be very long?
No, in a few minutes. It's just these things I have to pick up.
Right, then I'll probably wait for you.
Oh, all right. Cheers for now.
Oh, hello, Bella. Look who's here.
Bob!
Hello, Bella. It's wonderful to see you again.
Well, I never expected to find you here, Bob. How's Mikey?
Fit as a fiddle. Oh, wasn't that a man's voice I heard outside just before you came in?
Huh? What's this? What's this?
Oh, him. Oh, he's a perfect stranger to me. He's been riding along with me. My front wheel got loose again and he lent me his spanner.
You should have asked him in.
Oh, I didn't want to. It's rather a nuisance, really. He said he'd wait for me, but maybe if I stay here a bit longer, he'll go away.
If it was dark, Bella, I'd say you were unwise, but I suppose on these light summer evenings.
But it was getting dark by the time Bella left for home. Her brother-in-law saw her to the door. Bella was surprised to see that Light was still waiting for her.
Here's the man who lent me the spanner. I thought he'd have gone by this time.
Hello, you've been a long time. I thought you'd gone the other way.
I'm afraid I kept her a bit. You see, I was paying a surprise visit to my uncle. I hadn't seen Bella for some time. She's my sister-in-law.
Oh, well, I expect you had a lot to say to each other.
Yes, we had.
Hey, that's a very nice bike you have there, sir.
Yes, it's not bad, is it? But I think it's too bright a shade of green.
I gather you're not an Irishman.
I certainly am not.
Well, I'm still getting along now, Bob. Oh, it's been lovely seeing you.
You too, dear. Give my regard to your father and mother, will you?
I certainly shall. Cheerio.
Goodbye. Goodbye, Mr.
Goodbye.
Bella and her companion rode along some way together, talking about this and that. Ronald Light thought he was in for quite a pleasant evening, and he was about to suggest that they stop off somewhere before they got to Leicester.
I say, what would your answer be if I...
Oh, sorry to stop. This is where I leave you. This fork in the road. I go to the left.
But this lane, the right one, is the quickest route to Leicester.
How about you say I'm not going to Leicester?
Wherever Bella Wright was going, she didn't get there. About 20 minutes later, she was found lying by the side of the lane, dead.
We return with the secrets of Scotland Yard in just a moment with your host, Clive Brooke.
We're here at Joe's service station to watch Joe try for the world's record in checking the lights of a car once around brightly. This safety check usually takes 30 seconds to do. Here's the car, and there goes Joe. He's at the front end, checking the headlamps. Now the back end. All lights okay, and the clock stops at 12.5 seconds. And here's Joe, the lamp champ.
I just want to thank my mom, because if she hadn't pulled up in her tiny sports car, I couldn't have gone around so brightly. Thanks, Mom.
Drive in now and ask the man. Check my lights as quick as you can. Takes 30 seconds to go round your car. Once around brightly, and there you are. Ooh, once around brightly.
Be sure to have your car lights checked once around brightly. See and be seen for safety.
And now we return to the secrets of Scotland Yard.
You've re-examined the body of this girl.
Hi, Inspector. My first impression was that she'd fallen off her bicycle and hit her head so hard on a stone, perhaps, that it killed her. A second examination, however, has revealed a small bullet hole in her left cheek. The blood on her face hid it when I first saw her.
Have you the bullet?
I'm afraid, Inspector, that a second hole in the back of her head shows that the bullet went straight through.
Beg pardon, Inspector. Yes, Carter? What is it?
Well, sir, I went along the lane where the body was found, and
searched the surrounding ground, the ground surrounding the body, if you catch my meaning.
Man, what did you find?
I found this bullet, sir, about 17 feet from where the young lady was found dead. It was trodden in the ground like, and I thought I ought to bring it to your attention, sir.
Quite right, Carter. Did you find anything else?
No, sir. Oh, only a dead blackbird nearby. It had gorged itself on the young lady's blood, by the look of it.
I want to talk to the inspector.
I am the inspector. Who are you?
I'm Bella's brother-in-law. I'd like to talk to you, if I may. There's a rumor going around that Bella didn't die, well, quite naturally.
Well, I'm afraid the rumor's true. I regret to tell you that she was shot through the head. She must have died instantaneously.
Shot? But who?
Well, that's exactly what we want to find out. Now, you can help us.
Oh, anything, Inspector, anything I can do.
Thank you. Well, did you see your sister-in-law yesterday?
Yes. She visited her uncle in Galway. I'm staying with him for a few days. She dropped in last night.
What time did she leave the house?
It was about 9:20.
And her body was discovered at 10 to 10, half an hour later, about a mile away.
I think I ought to tell you, Inspector, that she left the cottage accompanied by a man. I don't know his name.
What was he like? One moment, Carter. Take this down.
Very good, sir.
Well, I should say about 35 to 40. He was dressed in a light rainproof coat, and he had a cap on.
Height?
He was astride a bicycle when I saw him. 5'7", I should say. Maybe a little taller.
Anything else?
Yes. He had a high-pitched voice. Squeaky almost.
And what was his bicycle like?
Normal BSA type, but painted rather a bright green.
Green bicycle, eh? That should be useful. You say you heard the man speak?
Yes. When Bella came out of the house, he said... Now, what was it? Oh, yes. He said, Bella, you've been a long time. I thought you had gone the other way.
He called her Bella, did he?
Yes. Bella, you've been a long time. I remember it perfectly.
Excuse me a moment, will you? Carter, I want you to have this description printed and sent out to all stations.
Very good, sir.
Sorry I interrupted you. You were saying that this man called your sister-in-law by her Christian name, so evidently he knew her quite well.
Well, that's what puzzled us all. We'd never heard of her speak of him, and she said when she came into the house that she'd only just met him on the road and got into conversation.
I see. Well, thank you very much for your information. We shall have to wait now. We'll keep in touch with you. Shouldn't be beyond our powers to find someone who saw this man.
A cycle repairer in Leicester came forward when the description was sent out. He said that just such a man had been in to have a puncture mended early Saturday afternoon. It was obviously the same man, and the hunt was on.
Seen the evening paper, Ronnie?
No, Mother. Anything interesting?
Oh, the front page is full of this murder case. It says that Scotland Yard has been called in, and £20 reward has been offered for any information about the man who was seen with the girl. Oh, Ronnie, dear, must you bring your bicycle indoors?
Sorry, Mother, it's dark outside. I've only got a bit of filing to do.
Oh, talking of bicycles, the murderer of this girl's riding one, you know. Green like yours. Rather funny.
All right, I know.
Ronnie, dear, I was only saying...
I know what you were saying, and I don't want to hear it. In fact, I don't want to hear any more about the damned case. I'm sick to death of it. Let the police get on with it, but for heaven's sake, leave me alone. Leave me alone.
Ronald Knight was in a highly nervous condition, but he knew what he had to do, get rid of that bicycle. Having filed off the identification number, he took the machine to the edge of the canal. There he took it to pieces and threw it all into the water. And into the water, too, went the holster with Army revolver. Inside the holster were the cartridges that he still had with him. Ronald Knight went on teaching at the school in Cheltenham, and altogether it seemed as if the case would turn out to be another of those unsolved crimes. But in February of the following year, 1920, a boatman who owned a barge on a canal near Leicester came to the police. He was taken to Chief Inspector Taylor of Scotland Yard.
Hello? Hello. Are you the Birmingham agent for BSA? Inspector Taylor of Scotland Yard here. Would you look through your records and see if you can trace the name of the man to whom you sold a green bicycle? Number PB47296. Yes. All right, I'll hold on. Well, Holt, the day doesn't seem far off when we shall have cracked the toughest nut I've ever handled.
You think whoever owned this bicycle murdered the girl, sir?
If he can be identified as the same man who had the puncture mended by that fellow clerk in Leicester, and who was seen with the murdered girl by the brother-in-law. Hello? I say, that was quick. You've traced the bicycle. Yeah? Sold in 1910 to who? Could you repeat that name, please? Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Goodbye. Well, Holt, our next job is to trace the whereabouts of a man named Ronald Vivian Light.
In a moment, we'll return to the Secrets of Scotland Yard with your host, Clive Brooke.
If you could see the world through the eyes of your child, what would you see? What would you see? What would you see?
Some of the things you see might surprise you. A child only knows his own vision. He really doesn't know if it's good or not as good as it should be. He cannot look through another pair of eyes and compare. It's possible for a child to have hidden vision problems such as amblyopia, which is dimness of vision in one eye, that remain undiscovered by routine vision tests, problems that can hamper his young years and later life. There's only one certain way to find hidden vision problems, and that's by having your children examined by your optometrist. This announcement is brought to you as a public service by the American Optometric Association and this station.
The search for Ronald Light was an easy task. He hadn't changed his name or left the country. In fact, he'd made no secret of his profession, his residence, or his movements. He was arrested at the school in Cheltenham where he was teaching mathematics. Chief Inspector Taylor had an overwhelming mass of evidence against Light, but at his first questioning, the schoolmaster knew nothing of this.
Holt, bring that man Clark in, will you? He's waiting outside.
Right you are, sir.
Oh, and you may as well bring the girl's brother-in-law in, too.
Very good, sir.
Now, Mr. Light, I'm putting it to you that you're making your case much worse by lying. It'd be far better for you if you told us the complete truth, you know.
I never lie. How can you expect a man to remember something back 10 or 11 years ago?
Not only that, and you know it. Oh, there you are, Mr. Clark. I won't keep you long.
So, how can I help you, Inspector?
Well, you can tell me in front of Mr. Light here exactly what you told us after you identified him this morning. Now, Mr. Clark is a cycle repairer in Leicester who says that on July the 5th of last year... Go on, Clark, what happened?
Well, Inspector, this man here came in and wanted a puncture mended.
Yes, and what color was the bicycle?
Green, Inspector.
And you're sure this was the man?
Oh, positive. He had a mac over his shoulder and was wearing a cap.
Put your cap on, will you, Light?
All right, but I still say this is the most ridiculous...
No, that's the voice, Inspector. I'd know it anywhere. I'd swear this was the man. I would. I'd swear it on the Bible.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Clark. You'll probably be asked to later.
But what if I did have a puncture repaired by this fellow? Doesn't prove that I was anywhere near Colby, does it? Doesn't prove that I ever met this Bella person.
But Bella Wright's brother-in-law immediately identified Ronald Light as the man with whom he had seen her on that evening. And so it went on. Fact after fact was brought in. And finally, Inspector Taylor was satisfied that there was sufficient evidence to send to the public prosecutor. The case went to court. I don't suppose there have been many cases where the accused had been in such a hopeless position. And the Attorney General went on to call the witnesses for the prosecution. As he finished his questioning of each one and sat down, all eyes in the crowded court turned to Marshall Hall, everyone expecting him to rise and cross-examine. But all he said was, no questions. It looked as if he realized there was nothing to be done about this case. He would probably save his energy for an appeal for clemency from the jury.
What you heard was not, Bella, you've been a long time, but hello, you've been a long time.
Light, the prisoner, said Bella, not hello. Of that I'm certain. I'm absolutely certain.
In spite of this certainty on the part of the witness, perhaps the evidence had been shaken a little. This alone, of course, did little to weaken the case for the Crown, but soon it appeared that Marshall Hall was saving his strength for the two main battles, those with the doctor and the gunsmith. In this case, the doctor had brought rather a gruesome exhibit, the actual piece of skin from the dead girl's cheek through which the bullet had passed.
Would you take this pencil and pass it through the hole the bullet made in the cheek? Yes. Does it go through? It just goes through. It doesn't go through very easily.
No.
Thank you. How far away from the body do you think the bullet was fired?
I should say from a range of 5 to 7 feet.
I put it to you that a .455 bullet, starting on a flight of some 1,000 yards, traveling at point-blank range at tremendous velocity, would make a much larger hole than the one through which you have passed my pencil. I put it to you that the woman's head would have been almost blown off.
I believe it was fired from a range of 5 to 7 feet.
I see. Then how do you get out of this dilemma? A bullet going in an upward direction, the wounds show this, do they not?
They do.
A bullet going in an upward direction at high velocity found 6 yards away from the body.
My theory is that the woman was shot while lying on the ground, and the bullet went through her head into the ground and then rebounded into the road.
Not a very convincing answer. And Marshal Hall then got the admission he was wanting.
If a bullet was fired without any further resistance than the girl's head, it would be absurd to suppose that it would be found only 6 yards away.
I agree.
Unless, of course, it was fired from a long way off.
Aye.
Marshal Hall followed this up in his examination of the gunsmith. He was trying to prove that the bullet was fired from a long way off and had nearly spent its normal course when it hit the girl. Otherwise, why was it found so near the body?
Suggest that the effect of such a bullet on the skull of a human being is almost to blow the side of the head off.
It depends on the velocity, sir.
Of course it does. But you've just said that the bullet was fired through a rifle barrel, which means that the velocity must have been very strong.
Amazingly enough, Marshal Hall seemed to be trying to make out that Light never fired a shot. That the bullet was fired from a distance and perhaps came from a rifle. Was he trying to tell the jury that this was another of those gun accidents?
Now, Mr. Light, will you please tell the jury in your own words why it was that you disposed of the bicycle and the holster for the revolver, why you did not go to the police when you read that they were looking for the man who had been with this girl just before she was killed? You were that man, weren't you?
Yes, I was. But I left her at the fork in the road. When I heard about the death, I was dreadfully worried, and for some time I was quite dazed at such an unexpected blow. I couldn't think clearly. When I began to think, I couldn't make up my mind to come forward, and I hesitated for days. I could not give the police any information whatever about how the girl had met her death. If the police and papers had only stated the known facts and asked the cyclist to come forward, I should have done so. But they jumped to wrong conclusions, and I was frightened when I saw that I was wanted for murder.
Indeed, who wouldn't be when they had no alibi?
I did not make up my mind deliberately not to come forward. I kept on hesitating. And in the end, I drifted into doing nothing at all. I drifted into the policy of concealment, and I just had to go on with it.
The jury was out for 3 hours and 7 minutes. Much of the evidence against Light had been shaken, but the numerous coincidences necessary if Bella Wright's death was to be accepted as an accident seemed too fantastic to be true. The position looked worse and worse as hour after hour went by. The agony that Ronald Light went through during this time was worse than anything he'd experienced in France during the war when he was so close to death so often.
Do you find the prisoner at the bar guilty or not guilty of the crime with which he is charged?
We find him not guilty.
The cheers that broke out were taken up by those waiting outside Leicester Castle. Neither the judge nor the clerk of the court could make himself heard. But amidst all this pandemonium, Ronald Light had collapsed on the floor of the dock. There he was carried down the steps and died before being released.
Mutual Broadcasting System has presented The Secrets of Scotland Yard with your host and narrator, Clive Brooke. This is Sanford Marshall inviting you to return next week when we will again reveal The Secrets of Scotland Yard.